Yeah, I always set my my menu sounds to ear safe stuff. I know some people don't care so much and they want the most exciting stuff, but God knows once you get halfway into a scene, you know, save warp back and you have to listen to that. It's the most shocking thing. So yeah, both runners here will probably take the standard opening route. They're going to go check the Kakiri sword chest. They'll go hit at Mido, and then depending on what we get, we probably leave the forest or maybe head over to Deku Tree.
Getting something Way of the Hero or a major item this early on can be kind of a blessing and a curse, because a blessing of where it opens up so many new checks, but turns out that's not going to be an issue. We got memed on.
Yeah, never like to see that early, just having no item on that first chest. So it's a painful experience. Yeah, the number one thing these runners want to see, I think, early on, either are explosives or just some kind of thing that's going to lead them to like some early progression.
Hookshot's always really nice because it opens up a decent amount of checks, but still points you in different logical. Light arrows. Similar chest than where we found them last time.
Yeah, that's great. We don't have to worry about searching around for those, you know, 3 hours into the seed.
Or no, that was two races ago that found light arrows in Mido's house.
Yeah, we won't have to worry about hitting up Ganon at the very end of the seed and him telling us that, you know, of course light arrows are in some place that we never wanted to visit.
But out of everything to be kind of hidden or in a check that you haven't checked yet, light arrows are kind of nice to be that one item that you have no idea where they are, because you get the Ganon hint, and at that point, you know where they are. But having them nice is also early because it allows for a lot of rupee farming. Once we have bow and magic, that is.
Yeah, and I think we see our first big route divergence already. Apasher's deciding that because he can buy sticks and he got an early Deku Shield, he can just use ISG to go farm some sticks and head straight into Deku Tree.
For those of you who don't know what ISG is, or kind of new to the glitch scene, ISG stands for Infinite Sword Glitch, which you can see by you can tell it's ISG because of the trail coming off of this Deku stick. You get ISG by crouch stabbing and interrupting that crouch stab with a text box of some sort. You see there he did it with the Navi text for the Deku Baba. And doing that, the game forgets to set the flag that, hey, your sword is no longer swinging. Sets that one, it forgets to set the one back to a 0, and your sword just kind of perpetually swings. It's used a lot, has some really interesting properties that the runner should take advantage of later on in the game.
Yeah, the amount of useful things that you can do with ISG it's too much to go over right away. But as we see the seed go on, hopefully we'll get to see all the different applications that ISG can bring to the glitched progression of this game. And I think we can hear Apasher's got the cows mooing as his Navi enemy sound, so that's going to be great as the seed goes on. So while Apasher goes straight into Deku Tree, Exodus is taking a lot more of a standard, I guess, accessible opening to the route. He goes and checks the grotto that's in the southeast corner of Hyrule Field, and then he goes straight to Gerudo Valley. And all of these are what we call Sphere 0 checks, which means they're all things that you can get without having found any items. And the way that Randomizer kind of like prioritizes where important items are going to be is the less items you need to find an item, the more likely it's going to be in that place. But Deku Tree is also considered pretty much a Sphere 0 check. Besides having shield, it's you know, very low on like the priority of needing items to go through. So making the play into Deku Tree is also a very, very smart play.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can see Apasher picking up the first strength upgrade of this seed. And meanwhile, Exodus is not necessarily finding anything over in Gerudo Valley besides maybe picking up a hint. And another thing to take note on, for the settings for this glitched randomizer race, we have what's called Dungeon Skull Sanity on. So not only are the chests all potentially items, but also the gold Skulltula tokens could be in the chests and items could be on the gold Skulltula. And Apasher makes the very first, he finds the very first set of explosives for this seed. Bomb chews are in logic, so now that he's found his first set of bomb chews, he can just keep showing up at shops and buying some more as the seed goes on. So that's a huge first find for him. And Ferrari's Wind is really nice too. Very recently, the randomizer devs have made it so that you can set separate Ferrari's Winds as both an adult and a child. So if you get the chance to go into, say, like Jabu's belly without Boomerang, you can set your Ferrari's Wind there, and then you can just warp back to there the next time you come as a child. So that's a really nice find as well.
Apasher seeing some early, possibly some pretty good items on here. Let's see if it... There's always a chance it's Ice Trap. I got jebaited last season. Nope, Apasher got the actual hover boots.
Yeah, so this early dive down into the Deku Tree is really paying off so far for Apasher. Depending on how long Exodus pushes off coming here, you might be suffering later on in this.
Hover boots. Apasher doing a trick called B1 skip to skip needing the slingshot to be.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that Apasher now has open to him is that because he has both slingshot, or he's both hover boots and explosives, he now has the potential to hover basically wherever he wants, because hover boots let you do vertical hovers basically straight up from there. And before we got started on this seed, I saw Apasher practicing, trying to get some different hovers going, so we'll see what he decides to apply as this seed goes on. So Apasher making the play to go and check the one remaining gold Skulltula here in the Deku Tree. He sees there's a nut there, so he's not necessarily going to go and waste his time trying to hover up to it. But if you did find an item there, there is a setup there that you can use to kind of hover up to the gold Skulltula if it does happen to be an item that you want. Meanwhile, Exodus is just going to take the owl back on over to Hyrule Castle. He'll probably farm some rupees over there, check the remaining Hyrule Castle checks, and then probably go adult from here is the play that I'd see most people making. So a small... Oh, you go on ahead.
Apasher, then go ahead and showing off ISG's a little bit more context. You can use it to quick kill bosses. For example, the standard quick kill strat without ISG, so like the accessible way to kill Goma, would be to crouch stab her, spam DQ nut, and then crouch stab 2 more times, and you can quick kill Goma. But with ISG, all you have to do is get ISG and then just basically walk out. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's all good. I was just going to mention that with bomb chews in logic, basically the first set of bomb chews you're going to find is always going to be 20. So no matter which set of bomb chews that maybe Exodus comes across first, he's going to get 20 bomb chews to begin with. I guess I'll try and pull up the tracking form here and do a little bit of tracking alongside everything. But if I miss something, just feel free to shout out.
Yeah, I'm seeing if we can get maybe a tracker on the line.
And both of our runners started out with Light Medallion. Apasher manages to find an empty bottle, so that's a nice early thing to have. Lets him check maybe some Skulltulas if he needs those, or just have a potion for safety. And not sure what medallion or stone Apasher got from Deku Tree. I was kind of looking away at that moment, trying to pull up the tracker for him. But yeah, we can see now Apasher's going to clear up the checks that Exodus did early on, except now he has Choose, so he's able to check a few things that Exodus had to miss. Okay, so we get our first kind of bogus hint of the game. Kakiri Forest is on the way of the hero. 90% sure that's going to point to the light arrows that we got in Mido's house, but it's possible that it could be the Song of Storm's Grotto that's still sitting there waiting. Exodus gets over to Talon early. He's got to wait for his egg to hatch before he can go any further. Some runners prefer to go and pick up the egg from Malon and then go straight to being an adult, because the egg will hatch before or while you're as an adult, and you can come back and show it to Talon whenever you. But I think one of the main reasons that they're going to do it here is because the guard sequence is still active. Oh, that feels bad for Exodus. He pushes the box a little bit too far. The box goes over the ledge. Otherwise, he could have jumped on top and just did a Deku Stick jump slash to get over.
Looks like he's gonna save that those couple from. Oh no, opting to go for the full put. Sacred Forest Meadow on the way of the hero. That might either mean the song or possibly the Wolfos Grove. I believe both of which are in Logic now.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, like hint distribution as far as Randomizer goes, this is on a tournament distribution, meaning that there's 4 different Way of the Hero hints with 2 copies each, as well as 2 different Baron hints. So we can see that Apasher picks up Zora's Fountain is Baron of Treasure, so there's no reason they need to check Zora's Fountain for anything. Another one of those small changes the randomizer devs did make that I think we've mentioned on other seeds, but you can go and do child fishing without having any kind of like Kakiri sword picked up. You can just do that. That's something that the randomizer devs have added in to just make fishing or child fishing a sphere 0 check. I know many times I've left the forest without enough rupees to go do fishing, and it feels bad when you get over here because you never know the next time that you're going to get a chance to hit up Lake Hylia as a kid. And Exodus is choosing to do a whole round of child checks before going adult. Some people have been saying this might be better for glitched randomizer, simply because you can do so much as an adult, so it's very easy to get sidetracked and never come back to do these child checks. So Exodus is choosing to get these out of the way right now before he goes adult and kind of goes down that rabbit hole.
Apasher's gonna check what the freestanding Naruto's letter is. Looks to be a magic. A magic. English.
Yeah, so long as that's not an ice trap, that's going to be nice to come back once he's got silver scale.
Exodus getting vanilla.
Vanilla's always been my favorite flavor of ice cream, so I like to see that at least. Exodus is going to roll around to this this last heart piece that's in here. You should be able to do a strat that lets him kind of like look through the wall. Since they've changed freestanding models into Rando 4.0, a lot of cool strats have came about as part of it. One of them is just being able to check things like. So yeah, you can see over there that it's a gold Skulltula token. He is going to opt to go in there and try and pick that up.
At this point in the run, they don't know, 50 gold Skulltulas could be in logic, or could be needed to get something important for the seed. So they're, right now, until they get hints saying that they don't have to, they're going to try and get as many gold Skulltulas as they can.
Bombchus in logic also allows it so that doing Bombchu bowling just requires having picked up Bombchus, because they essentially act as your first bomb bag within the logic of the game.
Yes, it's Skull Sanity just in dungeons, though. Lieutenant Dan. Lieutenant Dan. That's a clever name. Exodus is gonna go by Deku Tree, hopefully gets his hover boots. No?
He seems to have a moment of trying to figure out where he wants to go, but he does decide to go over that way. Maybe he just didn't know what he had in his inventory at the moment.
He'll definitely be glad to have done that. Gonna check some of the gossip stones around.
Yeah, when you play through this casually, maybe you don't realize that these two gossip stones are around here, and this other gossip stone that they have to go around is kind of difficult to find out it's there and to get around to. But because all of these gossip stones are capable of being read without having anything, whether it's a Stone of Agony or Mask of Truth, it just makes it very, very rewarding to go around and check these if they're in your path. So thanks to the Gossip Stones, we know that we don't have to worry about fighting Dead Hand at all. There's still the invisible chest that's in the Dead Hand room, but if they count their chests right and the count is appropriate, they don't have to worry about going back there at all.
There's also a method to kind of help with that, save scumming, where if you have one small key and two drawers to check with two chests behind each, if you check one and it doesn't have anything good, if the last time you saved was while you had that key but before you opened the door, then you can actually reset without saving. Still have that key. You'll know what's behind the other room, you'll know what's behind the room that you checked, and you can go check the other one to make sure that it's not something important.
So all in all, although the routes kind of diverged, Apasher and Exodus are basically going to come right onto each other, and I think that they're both going to go do Saria's check probably around the same time. If not, Exodus might be slightly ahead of Apasher just because his checks around Hyrule Field with Bomb Chews didn't yield anything. So if Exodus does choose to never go through Hyrule Field with Bomb Chews and at least check those like back two checks, he will pull slightly ahead of Apasher at this point in the race. But also it depends on if Apasher decides to go do the rest of these child checks like Exodus has decided to, or if he does choose to go adult immediately after getting CL. We'll have to see what he chooses to do.
Apasher getting cut by guards. That's one of the negative things about this the setting string is that you do not skip child stealth.
Yeah, sometimes you can get away with some frame perfect side hops, and he got pretty far before the guard blew the whistle, but all you need to do is miss one of those and you get caught and thrown right on. The guards are earning their pay today. I do not believe we have a spot on our tracker for Ferrari's Wind, but we'll have to keep that in mind that both of these runners have that, and as soon as they pick up Magic, Ferrari's Wind allows for some very convenient jumping around in dungeons, as well as a nice like little reset button in case you fall from someplace in like Fire Temple. So Apasher does manage to get through the guards on the third try and picks up his Warp Song. So once we go adult, I would expect the runners to kind of go over there and check that real early on, or after maybe doing a couple of standard adult checks first.
Yeah, Shularun, the in Randomizer, the Door of Time is set to open. As well as the forest, so they don't need to be Deku Tree. And I believe in this setting string, Source Fountain is closed, right?
Yes, it is. The only other thing that's open is the Kakariko Gate.
Yes, Kakariko Gate.
But yeah, if you play Randomizer yourself, you have the option to play with Forest open or closed. If you play with Forest open, then yeah, you do need to beat Deku Tree early on. Or you might get a Silver Scale early that lets you leave the forest. Also, you can play with Door of Time closed, which just means that you need to find Song of Time to be able to open up the door. But yeah, I think we'll see that this glitched randomizer meta is going to develop a lot as these races go on, and we might see completely different playstyles at the end of this whole tournament than we do at the very beginning. Because glitched randomizer is a very kind of new thing in the community. There was no major glitches for a while, but this plays on a completely different rule set than that.
I do believe no major glitches plays on a similar rule set to kind of how Medallion, Stones, and Trials speedruns work, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think there were a couple of relatively game-breaking things that were allowed, but not necessarily hovers. I think they allowed like seam walks. So a couple of interesting things, but this No I Am Wrong Warp rule set opens up the game much, much more.
Lieutenant Dan, yes, glitched is a very different rule set than accessible. And accessible, you know, it's designed for anybody can do this. Glitch means you can do frame perfect tricks, basically anything that doesn't manipulate items in your inventory or take you to places you shouldn't when you walk through when you walk into a cutscene or a blue warp.
Yeah, so in this tournament, the only two sets of tricks that are going to end up being banned are tricks that involve item manipulation, so bottle on B, or basically getting any item via a series of like very specific tricks, or wrong warping, which is basically taking a blue warp and making it take you someplace different than what it's intended.
Yeah. Well, also dot skip. Dot skip is banned because door time is open.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you try and dot skip with the door time open, I think you're gonna be very disappointed.
You'll find that getting the clip is very easy.
I don't know, I don't think you can set your angle right without being able to backflip into the door in the first place.
Well, you can use the there's the setup of hello Discord. You can set your angle using the alignment at the door entrance.
Oh yeah, I think there's the way that people do it when they do swordless dot skip.
Yeah, I had to learn swordless dot skip as my first dot skip, and it was interesting. There's a clip of me somewhere. Oh my god, I freaked out and about broke my controller. I was so happy.
Yeah, Shularoon, last race that I commentated, it was about 2.5 hours. But it does depend on what dungeons are required, because dungeons like Fire Temple and Spirit Temple have very specific requirements for actually finishing the dungeon.
Yeah, we've seen anywhere from about 2 hours and 15 minutes to upwards of 4 hours, so.
And it's also very dependent on the runner's knowledge of Rando, as well as just Ocarina of Time glitches. The more that they know and the more experience they have in things really niche, like maybe bingo, the more that they have the ability to really break around this game.
Apasher getting this check that might possibly be Way of the Hero in Sacred Forest meta. We got that Gossip Stone in it. No, looks like it's going to be the song. Might be looking at ZL.
Yeah, so actually Apasher and Exodus pretty much neck and neck, with the exception that Apasher has made a couple of extra checks. And I believe Exodus should have picked up hover boots in Deku Tree. I don't think he...
Yeah, I saw it. I'll get it. Oh, okay, good. Apasher with the Song of Storms. That might give a hint to one of the two Song of Storms checks that will be waived.
Yeah, so besides Bottom of the Well, that gives us 2 grottos that we can visit, as well as 1 grotto over by Hyrule Castle. It just gives us a hint. But some people choose to really prioritize going for hints. And Apasher showing off the low health noise at the moment. After a little bit, we might just switch over sound to Exodus just to, you know, relieve our ears. Or maybe you really enjoy the soothing sounds of King Zora's second album.
I believe it was number 2 on top Billboard, right under Thank You Next.
I think one of
Angel. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think one of my favorite sounds in this game is whenever I think one of Ruto's, like, I don't know, her board noises comes up. That's just really hilarious to listen to.
Oh man, I've gotten that as a hover boots noise once. Apasher getting one of the 2 Song of Storms grottos, which turns out to be a gold Skullflow token.
But Exodus is also on low health, so I dread switching over there and finding something less satisfying than Weeps.
I'm tempted to, looks like Apasher taking a, either that was unintentional or it was an intentional death ward. Never know.
Yeah, he's entered Goron City, so he'll just be able to come right back here, and he'll have full health. So it's a pretty smart intentional death if it was one, just to be able to refill your health real quick.
Looks like he's going to be going for Boulder Maze.
Yeah, and I bet he's also picking up on the fact that because Song of Storms may have been our way of the hero hint, assuming that adult Sheik over there won't give us something important, he'll also probably check the Song of Storms grotto that's outside of Goron City, as well as probably head straight down to CAC after this as well. So far, hints have been relatively nice to us. We found that 30 skulls and 50 skulls are out, as well as bigger on Trade Quest. Not sure about frog songs. I remember seeing a hint for it, but it passed by too fast for me to record it down.
Frog songs are never that bad, though. Especially, you know, that actually might be something we want to check out, especially getting Song of Storms this.
Just getting Song of Storms frogs is not bad, but the hint always refers to playing all of the other songs for the frogs and then doing the frog game. And that one's no fun.
Exodus. Getting Iron Boots in Grotto.
Exodus repping his Nikes early on in the seed. He's got both sets of shoes.
Boulder of Destiny. Held something in the way of the hero. Shocker.
Yeah, I think the only thing that leaves us is the other, the Iron Boots well that's over in the northwest corner. That could also be possibly our way of the hero hint. We'll have to wait for them to go adult before we get to check that one out.
Apasher, talking to the guard, don't think he realizes that the Keaton Mask skull, Deacon Theater skull mask has been removed from life.
Yeah, I know Apasher is a very good accessible rule set runner, so this may just be some muscle memory from him getting that out of the way. Hopefully he doesn't go too deep into that mass trading sequence quest, or else it's going to be a real feels bad man.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe he'll need rupees at the time. That's 30, 40, and 50 gold sculptulas.
And Ocarina of Time gives us Prelude, so that wipes out all of like the really painstaking quests.
Yeah, sadly no quality of life there on Prelude, but I mean it's rather be that than something like ZL or for some reason our trackers call it Spirit, and I about said Spirit Song, and I am now going to think about what I've just done.
I think we'd all pick up on what you're trying to say there, but yeah,
I'm disappointed in myself.
Well, you could have came out and just called it Requiem or something. That might have been interesting too. Yeah, so Exodus is choosing, instead of doing the Kakariko checks as a child like Apasher is doing, he's probably going to go adult and do pretty much the same slew of checks, with the exception of chickens, but he'll get adult Anju instead. So we'll have to see what Apasher gets from doing chickens as a child and seeing if he gets something important, and that'll kind of signal to us that Exodus has made a big oops.
Good old Navi cow sound. Goron tunic. We know that we do have to complete Fire Temple, so that'll be nice.
Yeah, not necessarily a required item, but still very useful in the grand scheme of things. If you don't have more than 5 hearts going into Fire Temple, completing some of the rooms and the time limit that you have is incredibly difficult.
It's a speed run within a race.
But Exodus gets an adult's wallet, so he doesn't necessarily have to worry about that. He can choose to farm the 200 rupees and just buy his Goron tunic outright, should he choose to do that.
Adult's wallet's never required, I don't believe, but definitely a pretty good quality of life thing.
Yeah, I've seen a couple seeds where adult's wallet is your logical way of getting a Goron's tunic, but that's the only major thing. And Mirror Shield getting picked up from Man on the Roof. Now we'll get to see what's that.
I've never seen. Appears to be bomb bag.
Oh, that's really nice to find early on in the seed, having a second source of explosives, so you're not always having to just go farm some more bomb shoes. It's really nice.
As well as it makes things like Dodongo's Cavern a lot easier. Exodus finding Song of Time and wow, English is hard today. And Song of Storms check. There you go. As well as picking up the hookshot. Exodus has a very successful adult cactus.
Yeah, Lucius, one of the settings for for this like glitched rando tournament is that bomb chews are a logical like explosion source. And with that setting comes that if you find your first set of bomb chews, you can buy bomb chews from shops from that point forward. But in normal accessible, you would be 100% right that chews are sequence breaking.
Sequence breaking. And in glitchless logic, there is no sequence breaking. Or in an accessible rule set, there is no sequence breaking. Or very little of it, I guess. There's... I don't know.
Anything's a sequence break if you try hard enough, I guess.
There you go. That's a logical conclusion to whatever illogical thing just came out of my mouth.
Yeah, sometimes the seed is nice and it gives you another bomb bag early on, and sometimes the seed is mean and it doesn't give you a bomb bag until Ganon's Castle. You never know what's going to happen with bomb chews and logic.
Ganon's Castle and all the checks and the trials are the most insulting thing ever. It's what you've been wishing for the entire seed, but have never gotten. Technically you didn't need it, but it would have been nice. Like an extra bomb bag, or an extra quiver, or magic, or something that you need or is not needed, but much loved. Ganon's Castle is kind of trolly.
I think right there we got our hint for 10 big Poes being something worthless as well. So another one of those really painful checks. 10 big Poes are actually turned on for no I am wrong warp rules. So they do have to get all 10 big Poes if they wanted to. Poe duping would be allowed, but of course, you have to have elemental arrows at that point to be able to do that.
And Apasher going for diving game, even though we've gotten a hint that Zora's Fountain is barren of treasure.
Well, Zora's Fountain is just
Domain, sorry.
Yeah, Zora's Fountain is barren of treasure, but yeah, we're hitting up Zora's Domain at the moment. Zora's River, Zora's Domain, Zora's Fountain, all back to back.
Now that you say that, I don't remember what's in the hint. I remember at the time thinking Zora's Domain. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe this is something good and I'm wrong. It wouldn't be shocking.
Yeah, one strat I have seen some runners do is that they'll start the diving game and they'll go over here and do the whole torch run, and then they manage to have just enough time to finish the diving game, and so they'll kind of like get 2 checks for 1 and kind of cut some time out there. But it's very tight timing, and it can be dependent on how good your rupee like placement is in the diving game.
Shularoon, no, Serenade is not on the tracker because it's always open to both adult and child. And who was this? Lieutenant Dan, if by fast Ganon you mean skip tower collapse sequence, then yeah.
Okay, well, Apasher manages to find a magic bot or a magic anything, I guess, in Zora's Domain. So that's really nice that he doesn't necessarily have to pick up the one that we think might be his second magic in like Hylia.
The two runners have very different spots. Exodus with more adult-oriented items with hookshot, hover boots, iron boots, along with mirror shield. And the Apasher has a bomb bag and he has magic. So, put that Pharaoh's win to.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past. Apasher's probably going to hit up CAC really soon here as an adult. But Exodus going up here, he might hit up and get the bomb bag as an adult. But him going child and hitting up Zora's River it's probably quite a ways away. Yeah, Serenade is a nice pickup, at least for Childling, because that kind of gives you like Prelude of Light mini. You can at least warp over to Serenade and then take the owl back to Hyrule Castle at any time instead of making the long walk from Link's house. And since we know that Prelude of Light is on Ocarina of Time, there is very little to no chance that either runner is going to bother picking up this race.
Exodus resetting his timer. Might go get Bolero check or with the hint up there. Nope, looks like he's gonna get Bolero check.
Yeah, and you can see up there that he doesn't have to necessarily plant a bean here in the crater. There's nothing here, but he does pick up Claims Check, and that's really nice to pick up right here because he can just drop that straight off at Bigoron.
I do believe Bigoron just gives 10 rupees though.
Yeah, I do have that marked down that at least it's a useless item, but he's going to get that out of the way. Maybe he didn't get that hint, or he's forgetting it in the heat of the moment.
No, it looks like he remembered. Maybe. I'm not quite sure what he's doing.
I think he might want to go check the remaining hint that's in there, but he doesn't have the health to be able to do that. So go and
toilet out of logic, or not out of logic, out of use.
Yeah, seeing toilet checks, just some gold Skulltula tokens, definitely a nice thing to see because that's a long ways away. Even though they do have Iron Boots in Song of Storm or in Song of Time, so they can go check that if they wanted to. But it's such a time waster to go down there.
GTG is never really anything you want to see Way of the Hero. It takes so much time and so many different items to get to different things. I know it's at least something that I don't like to see on Way of the Hero.
Yeah, but depending on what items they have, you can see some really interesting strats to complete GTG. I know as far as glitched logic, we might be able to see them just kind of weird shot their way through the entire chest maze. It's possible.
Apasher getting the Zora's tunic.
Yeah, so while Exodus has got both pairs of shoes, Apasher's rocking some nice duds, so we'll see which one of those two sets of things gets a little bit more use. I think it's going to be the boots, but we'll see. I do believe the only thing that Lens could be considered useful for is the Lens minigame that's over in Hyrule Market.
Yes, just lenses. The only way lens would be in logic, or would be needed, would be if the minigame is... Apasher going to get spit out into the gold Skulltula token. Interesting strategy. Opting not to keep his DQ shield.
Yeah, never like to see that room. I always know I spam nuts in that room just to prevent those keys from burning up my shield, but sometimes you get unlucky or you're a little bit overconfident and they mess you up anyway.
Apasher also picking up silvers.
Yeah, I'll have to pay attention to Apasher when he goes adult just to see what all the required dungeons were, because I kind of missed those while Exodus was going.
I definitely am getting some that maybe Spirit might be have some good items in it. With Exodus having the mirror shield pretty early on, I always want to say man on the hookshot, man on the roof, without hookshot check.
Yeah, right now, Epona's song and having hover boots pretty much puts everything that's over in Gerudo Fortress, as well as crossing the wasteland, is pretty much completely in logic, because we do have it so that they do not need Lens to logically cross the wasteland. Of course, both of these runners can probably do it even without Lens anyway, but it's just nice to know that that's not a logical decision that you have to make. Oh, double defense. Apasher picks up in the bottom of the well. Bottom of the well, another loaded location. Early Song of Storms would have you believe that, but you know, you never know until you actually get down there if that's a bait or not.
Asher going to get the couple of checks that need ZL by clipping out of bounds with a bomb shoot through some vine.
Yeah, I was thinking for a second, you know, why is he doing this? Because he has explosives. But yeah, I guess maybe he's trying to get over to places that you can only get when you play ZL to lower the water down.
He's using a pretty old setup for getting to that bomb shoot. Or I guess it's vanilla bomb shoot.
Yeah, I've seen this setup to get to the bomb chew chest, but usually I see people use a vine clip to be able to get over to where he's trying to get to. I'm not even really 100% sure. Maybe he's just trying to.
Yeah, at this point, he's just clipping back into bounds, gonna try everything else again, I guess.
Oh yeah, I see exactly what he's trying to do there. So yeah, he's going to take another crack at it and try and get over. So he's trying to kind of navigate this out of bounds water to swim all the way over into the area that leads over to Dead Hand. We know that Dead Hand gives fire arrows, which could be useful to pick up, even though he does have Din's Fire at this moment. But navigating the out of bounds water is by no means an easy trick to do, especially with different setups. And if you're not practiced. While Exodus is going to choose to kind of complete Dodongo's Cavern as an adult. Generally, in Randomizer, you just want to go and do this dungeon as an adult anyway. You can skip the most tedious parts of the dungeon, but just because Link is, you know, an extra 1.5 feet taller and has a 6-foot vertical.
And yeah, as adult, Link does have hops.
Apasher seems like he's going to be done with his trip into the bottom of the well for now. He finds the items that he thinks are the most important out of there. Maybe requires a double dip later once he's got ZL. He just kind of decides to give up on the last couple things that you need ZL for. There's only another, I think, 4 chests that he can pick up if he does find ZL. So. But yeah, one of the biggest things that these runners are going to have to remember throughout the seed is that you're going to want to come into these dungeons and you're going to want to clear things that you'd normally skip, because those Skulltulas could be hiding something really important. And we've seen throughout this tournament so far that Skulltulas are the number one thing that are messing up runners really good times. And we do see, we probably saw that earlier, but Lon Lon Ranch was also Way of the Hero, and we saw that we had Vanilla Epona song, which means I think this seed is pointing us directly to either getting, it's probably our logical access over to Gerudo Training Grounds and just Gerudo Fortress and Spirit Temple.
Yeah, the Gerudo area is definitely going to have something good.
Exodus making quick work of the Dodongo's Cavern. That's another dungeon out of the way. It's always nice to see those getting finished real quick and early. And DC is one of our medallion dungeons, so getting that out of the way is also another big check. Deku Tree was just a stone, but stone dungeons, especially Deku Tree is almost always a mandatory complete just because of how low on the progression scale it can be. It always has at least one important item, it seems. And I want to say that DC was our fire medallion, so I'll get that marked off on. Exodus is choosing to double dip back in here, probably to pick up that one or two last Skulltulas. So we'll see that if this decision pays off. Although he didn't raise the platform.
Yeah, if he has seen any of the races recently, he'll know that the gold Skulltula above the stairs is really, really important most of the time, and you never know. It's Logic has been pretty trolly with putting stuff there recently.
Oh yeah, and this is another important skull. He's gonna check this out with a bomb tube. He just sees it's just an arrow refill, so you can skip that for the time being. All right, thank you for correcting me on the medallions there. So Exodus making the climb back up to Goron City here. I'm wondering where exactly he's headed. I think he's probably just going to take the warp over to Lost Woods and go check some things over there. Yeah, that's exactly what he's going to pick up. So we'll see what some of the adult things over here, as well as maybe the minuet check will yield us. But Apasher does have pretty much near logical entrance into Shadow Temple right now because he does have Hover Boots and Din's Fire. So there's a chance that because he's now got a hook shot, I would think that he would just enter Shadow out of logic and go complete that right now if I were him. But I can understand him waiting for later to do that as well.
All right, and we appear to have Mr. Bleeding Blue 11 on tracking.
Bless having a tracker. I know that I'm getting distracted between everything, so I miss things. That's for sure. So bless the unseen heroes of the randomizer stream.
Being a tracker is not easy, and we're definitely thankful to have him around.
All right, so chances are our way of the hero hint being at Sacred Forest Meadow is actually going to be our ZL here. I mean, our Song of Storms was a pretty good check too, so either one of those can very well be our way of the hero hint. Of course, Song of Storms right now paying off a lot more logically, but we'll have to check and see if any of the fairies maybe are holding some very important items for us as well. So Exodus takes a fall over here. It's very easy to just kind of like YOLO this jump and maybe miss it once in a while. Never like to see it, but it happens from time to time. But he does pick up the dungeon map for his trouble. And Apasher whipping out a 47-second time. That's probably pretty much the best time that you can get on a Dampe race. So really impressive to just whip that on it. And Apasher showcases another one of those C-up strategies that you can use to check the free-floating models. He just kind of C-ups while he's rolling into that wall there. Lets him see into the wall and check that the box that normally has a heart piece still has a heart piece on this seed.
After all, vanilla is Ryan's favorite form of ice cream.
Vanilla makes everything so much more simple. You know, the perfect randomizer seed, although the one that would probably confuse the most people would be a pure vanilla seed. Yeah, Apasher's not opting to sequence break into Shadow Temple with a hookshot jump. Does come down here and gets the big chest down this grotto, which is just going to yield him his adult's wallet. Not exactly the item he's looking for right now, but does help if he chooses to buy some more bomb chews, because bomb chews are really useful for some of the major hovers that people might want to pull off. So Exodus showing off there that you can in fact go in on the right side in Forest Temple and just hookshot up those vines. It's really precise. A lot of the times you're going to hookshot up there and Link's not going to grab one of the vines, but he manages to get it. It's a really nice thing. Skip's having to use the Song of Time block, even if he does have Song of Time.
And it is allowed and accessible rule.
Yeah, I think it's one of those tricks that's expected to be done in this rule set. It's not necessarily expected in vanilla or in accessible, but at least not in the qualifier stages of the tournament that's going on at the moment. But I'm wondering if Exodus is going to choose to clear most of this dungeon because he has bow. A lot of the runners that we've seen do this dungeon so far have just opted to check the first couple rooms and then just boss key skip into the boss room. I think Apasher is setting up for a doom jump here. He's going to have to watch his health very closely because he does have double defense. But basically, because he has a fairy in a bottle here, he's going to kind of die on a proper frame while he's hookshotting this ladder. And that's going to let him jump all the way up to the top level of the dungeon without having to go through the rest of it. So I'll be excited to see if he pulls this off.
Now, if he pulls this off, he should go up to the bridge and be revived by a fairy using a hookshot jump. Nope.
Oh yeah, and the double defense is gonna mess this trick up because I don't think anyone's ever prepared to do this trick counting with double defense.
Man, don't you hate it when you don't die? X is finding the boomerang somewhere deep in forest.
Yeah, he finds the boomerang in the floor master room. I forget which one's which, but either way, he's got a boomerang now. So I don't think Jabu Jabu is necessarily required in this this set, but it's a nice item to pick up for some Skulltula farming as a kid, or if he wants to kind of equip swap it, that's a possibility too.
Something else that he might need that for is Child Side of Spirit requires Boomerang for it to be in Logic. Just further pointing towards Spirit being necessary to beat the seed.
Yeah, Apasher is going to choose to kind of just reset there and try and get the setup for this again. Again, the health is going to be really weird. Normally, you kind of backflip with half a heart, but health does kind of go down. Health isn't necessarily just in quarters on this game. Health is actually measured in increments of 16ths, and you only see it in quarters. He's got the setup for everything right. It's just making sure that his health is where it needs to be, because with double defense, he's just not going to be taking as much damage as he thinks he will. Oh, and there we go. We see it perfectly. That second time gets to go all the way up there and skip most of the dungeon. Still think it's a time save despite having to redo it, but really nice to see that. Lets him at least to get up to the top part of this dungeon, not have to worry about making a second visit in here. This is kind of how it's done in 100% at least. He's actually going to have the choice now to go over to the room with the staircase and go check out the Skulltula that's there without having to like come in here and reset the staircase.
X is gonna get the vanilla boss key, just another small key.
Yeah, I think all in all, it is a pretty smart decision for him to kind of go through here all the way. You know, he doesn't have logical entry into this dungeon besides, I think backflipping over Mido is logical entry into this dungeon in this rule set. So anything in here could actually hold some form of progression. And especially in this seed, they're going to have to find the hammer. The hammer is a mandatory no-skip item. So I think once they find that, we might see a lot more sequence breaking open up because they don't have to worry about missing anything at that point. Another big chest for Exodus in the Forest Temple. See what this... It gives him his first logical bomb bag. So now we know there's a bomb bag in Zora's River and one in Forest Temple.
Both technically have been in Logic for quite a while.
We see Apasher here is going to attempt one of the first hovers that we're going to see in this run. Basically, with ISG, one of the properties of ISG is that you can't necessarily fall off ledges. And bombs kind of create this, I want to say, almost like a temporary ledge that Link can stand on. And so with that, he just kind of floats up there, and he can float all the way up to like different ledges in the game, skipping having to like maybe hook shot up there. So right now he would normally need Scarecrow Song to get up to that ledge.
I do believe that the platform has something to do with how the game handles knockback. At least that's what my understanding of it.
Yeah, so basically, yeah, with an explosion, like shielding an explosion while backflipping, is the whole nice thing about hovers.
The shield gives you knockback, but not so that it changes Link's animation, which is why it's allowed to stay up.
Yeah, so just as a reminder to the people who are watching out there, the dungeons that we do have to complete in this seed are Forest, Shadow, Dodongo's Cavern, Fire Temple, and Spirit. And so right now, Exodus is kind of going for his progression. He's not necessarily worrying about doing Bottom of the Well at this time. And I don't think Apasher necessarily... He did pick up, I think, Silver Gauntlets down there. So that's something that could be very important later on in the seed to give access. But actually, with Hover Boots and Bombs, Exodus can actually just super slide past the Silver Gauntlets block. So he doesn't necessarily have to even worry about picking that up at any point.
Speaking of bombs, Exodus getting his second bomb bag, meaning all 3 bomb bags have been found within this.
Yeah, so this seed much nicer than some of the other ones that we've seen, giving both logical bomb bags early on in this.
The Apasher getting his first logical bow, putting Spirit Temple, or not Spirit Temple, Forest Temple available.
So just a second ago, Exodus did what's called a ledge clip. Basically, when Link like side hops onto a ledge and rolls, and if he Z targets on the very first frame that he grabs the ledge, he'll actually clip inside of the ledge, and from there he can let go, and he'll be kind of out of bounds. So he uses that to actually clip into the falling ceiling room in Forest Temple, and I believe he skipped having to go all the way down there and shooting the frozen ice switch. So that saves a little bit of time in Forest Temple.
Ledge clip seems to be a very popular trick to use in Forest, being both used for this. You can use a ledge clip to skip the Song of Time block, as well as get to the boss early. Fantastic.
Yeah, at this point, I think after Exodus finishes Forest Temple, I would say that he should go either complete Shadow or complete Spirit. He has more things leading him over into the progression of Spirit Temple, but he does have pretty much all the tools he needs to glitch his way through Shadow Temple at this point. So I'll be interested to see what decision he decides to make. Either one, I think, are good plays. One's a little bit more logical, but logic can be very baiting at this point once they've broken enough things.
My personal first choice would be go straight to Spirit. Saves time on some different skips, as well as I'll be willing to bet that that's where the runners will find Hammer. That's my prediction.
Yeah, depending on where Nocturne might be hiding, if he does find Nocturne at, like, say, Requiem, then we'll have a pretty good idea that, like, Shadow Temple is expected to be done after Spirit. But if we find something else there, then it starts to become a little bit more of a head-scratcher. Of course, we don't need Nocturne, but having nice little logical clues that point you in the direction of a dungeon, no matter what glitches you can do, just gives the runners a little bit more confidence in the decisions that they make. Because the seeds that the runners are doing basically are completable by anybody at home with a certain degree of knowledge of this game. There is no necessity of glitches to pull off anything or to actually finish this seed. Glitches are just kind of there as an accessory to make the seed that much faster.
There are a few required, or expected, I guess would be the term to use, glitches, but most of them are very easy, and, you know, such as hookshotting, or, you know, for the hookshot man on the roof in Kakariko, just side-hopping left off the tower, just kind of stuff like that. There are a few expected tricks, but most of them pretty easy.
So we do see that Exodus has pretty much done his full clear of Forest Temple. I don't believe he's missed anything, even in the world of like Skulltulas. Maybe one out there, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But now he's just going to go into his Phantom Ganon fight, clear this, and then we'll have to see where he goes next. But yeah, Apasher is making the kind of out of logic play at the moment going into Fire Temple. Very rarely do you see randomizer runners coming into Fire Temple without hammer, just because so often you get hammer locked behind not getting a key in the first chest of the dungeon. Yeah, Apasher did pick up Goron Tunic early on in the seed. I believe he picked that up from Child Chickens. So I can see that he might have a little bit more logic pointing him in this direction, besides the fact that he does not have hammer yet. And boy, wouldn't vanilla hammer be an exciting thing at this point.
Man, if hammer is vanilla, that would put Apasher so much, you know, so much more ahead of Exodus at this point in the seed. But sadly, I don't think that's gonna happen.
Yeah, Apasher gets a little bit in. He goes and checks the chest over in the Darunia room. Doesn't necessarily find what he's wanting, and so he's just gonna warp out of there. And you know, checking the first couple things in there doesn't necessarily waste any time because it's things that you're gonna have to check anyway. And you have to go back through that first room, so it's not a huge deal. It's nice to get him out of the way at the very least.
CTEC, it is 1.0 for emulators. However, for virtual consoles are built on 1.2.
Yeah, it does require a 1.2 WAD file to patch to go put on into a Wii.
WAD. Exodus gonna get some Lake Hylia checks. Might get Lakeside Laboratory. We're gonna start off with Scarecrow Song.
And I think this is the second time we've seen Apasher using a Hess in this seed. I don't know if we've necessarily explained exactly what this fast backward movement is for the folks out there.
Do you want to explain it, or do you want me
to? Either way, just I guess a Hess just involves basically holding a certain position on a controller just outside the dead zone that Ocarina of Time speedrunners, and actually it's used across a wide variety of Zelda games we found, called ESS position, which is short for Extended Super Slide.
In the CSS position, Link holds whatever momentum he has. So if you're just standing, he'll just kind of like shuffle his feet. However, if you're rolling into a bomb and shielding the bomb, it'll actually carry over the momentum of your knockback, depending on what frame you start to hold the SS on, and you know some other timings. And so by holding this knockback momentum, you go back with the fastest, reasonably accessible speed in the game.
Yeah, so originally we found out that super slides were a thing that kind of came about from Link rolling into a bomb and at the same time kind of like trying to pick up the same bomb or maybe even a different explosion or object. You can do a super slide with a bomb and say like a bush or 2 bombs or even 1 bomb if you have good timing, but it's I think a 2-frame window with 1 bomb. But from super slides, we found out that you could, in fact, extend a super slide by holding that ESS position, although you lose a ton of speed. But then later on, they found this way to kind of have the properties of an extended super slide with the speed of a regular super slide, and that made the brand new hyper extended super slide, which is just pretty much the fastest way to get around anywhere in this game. But at the very least, it's some tech that takes a lot of practice to do. So it's very interesting to see if Apasher's practice on Hessing gets him very far into the seed by saving some time.
Hessing is a necessity to learn in about everything but glitchless categories for Zelda speedruns, or Ocarina of Time speedruns.
Exodus showing off a neat little trick there. So with the diving minigame, if you just if you have your iron boots on and you hook shot that box, in the middle of the hook shot animation, you take off the iron boots, the scientist will just register that you actually dove to the bottom of the pool and it'll give you the item. And so that's a nice way to having to skip to get gold, the gold scale. Although all we got out of it was a recovery heart, but you know, we'll give him our love.
Or more importantly, the scientist will give us his heart.
Yeah, not the nice heart that we usually get from him. He's not as impressed because we had to kind of break it, but you know, we got something out of it.
Yeah, that was a 4 out of 10 dive.
Yeah, and that is 100% correct. Apasher, there wasn't necessarily anything important in Forest Temple. Besides, Exodus did find bomb bags, which was important for him. But Apasher is not necessarily picking up anything that he doesn't already have, so it's really nice for him at the moment. A bold play that definitely is going to pay off. Both runners picking up Slingshot now. That's logical completion of Deku Tree, so we know that like the completing Deku Tree is not necessarily out of logic at this time. The only other check that's going to open up is going to be the Slingshot target that's in Lost Woods the next time they decide to go child, if they ever have to. At this point, we have so many adult checks that are in logic or at least accessible that we're going to probably not go child for a long, long time.
Hello. How's it going, Frisk? We see you. Don't be needy. Getting Nocturne of Shadow from Prelude cutscene. And Exodus going to get Epona by hovering over this fence to the loading zone that starts the Epona cutscene.
Yeah, so the game doesn't necessarily check that you jump over the fence with Epona. It just checks that you hit that loading zone, and once you hit it, it just says, yeah, you have Epona. So we're just going to jailbreak Epona out of here and go, you know, reap the benefits of that.
Neat little way to skip the Epona race.
So now we're going to go check the last grotto that we have in Hyrule Field just to see if there's not anything down here. We do know that Hyrule Field is on the way of the hero. We picked up iron boots down here, but there's still a possibility this last grotto could have something. Generally, way of the hero hints mean that it's a mandatory full clear of that area just to make sure.
Nope, doesn't look like it.
Yeah, so because Iron Boots are a way of the hero, but we know that Toilet Check is nothing, and we know that Water Temple isn't necessarily a required dungeon. What exactly do you think the seed's requiring us to have Iron Boots for?
I personally, I think it's the room, like a basement of column. My hypothesis is the bottom of column in Water Temple.
Yeah, I think I'd like to see having a Water Temple dive being in there at some point, just to maybe our hammer is down in Water Temple. I think the only other logical place would be at the bottom of Jabu or at Zora's. No, there's nothing in Zora's fountain. So yeah, it's got to be something in Water Temple that the seed is kind of requiring us to get. Whether or not it's bait or not is hard to say.
Lucio, Way of the Hero items are required to logically beat the game. Some of them can be skipped. Like, sometimes Lens can be Way of the Hero if Wasteland Chest is necessary. But usually it's a pretty good indicator if you need to go there really quickly.
Okay, so Exodus can see that this chest is a big chest, and so he's gonna use a Hest to kind of get through here and check and see what's on the other side and see if maybe this is an important item. And it's just a big quiver, unfortunately.
If chat can guess the location of Hammer, if you get it right, I will give you a sub to Speed Gaming. Let's make that a small little competition.
Yeah, we've already given you a couple of hints, maybe, if you've been paying attention, so...
But we do not know ourselves.
And no, we don't get the spoiler log until everybody else does. But yeah, Hammer is pretty much our glitched go mode item at this point in the game. It's the only item that we really need at this point to beat the rest of the seed. The rest of the stuff is completely possible within the realm of really accessible glitches. And by accessible glitches, I mean relatively easy glitches, not, you know, glitchless glitches. Although Exodus does not have his first magic, and chances are he doesn't go child, and as far as we know, both magics are in child, so we'll see how long it takes him to go check those out.
Pickaxe, where in spirit? You gotta be a little bit more specific than that. Although I applaud your try.
So Apasher is going to make this dive into Shadow Temple. This is pretty much, I think, the only other place that we might find our hammer at, besides maybe Spirit, or if it is, in fact, locked behind Iron Boots. There's a chance that Iron Boots could just lead us to something like Longshot or something else that might be Way of the Hero.
That is always a possibility. Hey, yeah. Nice pun, Pickaxe.
So I'm trying to think if there's any other items that could be considered Way of the Hero besides Hammer at this point. And nothing really stands out to me in order to complete our last 3 medallion dungeons.
I don't know, do we have Lens yet?
Oh, that could be the last big piece of bait. That is 100% true. Oh boy, if it's Lens that's locked behind Iron Boots and we get to find that out, like maybe at the bottom of Water Temple, that would be so troll.
Oh man. That would be spam your debated emotes. Time.
So Exodus is he is kind of trying to show off the really cheap strategy to do these guards. If you stand in that corner and you just kind of hook shot over the torch, the guards will jump inside the torch with you, and they'll kind of get stuck there. And you can just turn around and like crouch stab the wall, and she can't do anything about it, and she just gets pretty much one cycled. It's such an easy way to do this fight that once you know it, you shouldn't do it any other way.
Okay, last chance for guessing where Hammer is. And you have to guess like a specific chest. You can't just say Spirit. Nice try. And Lieutenant Dan, I'm not sure if we've gotten a. I assume you mean GTG. I don't think we've gotten a hint about GTG yet. Besides toilet, we know it's not a toilet.
Yeah. Our two barren hints for this seed have been Zora's Fountain and Goron City. So besides those two places, there are items that could be anywhere. Now there's a bunch of other places that can also technically be barren, but we don't know those until we actually check them. I think most seeds decide like 6 places that are completely barren of items that show up on the spoiler log at the very end. So Apasher here is going to do the bomb version of this boss key skip, which I think is a little bit more difficult, but if you have practice with it, if you do this category on N64, you pretty much alternate between doing this boss key skip with bomb shoes or bombs. We can see he does fail it the first time, so that's unlucky.
Yeah, this boss key skip is one of the harder tricks in the game.
Yeah, I'll say with bomb shoes, the timing is super easy and lenient. With bombs, it's definitely just a little bit more tight, but you have multiple kind of like backup frames, which make it easier in that way.
Backup frame. Okay, answers are locked, and I have my screenshot.
And Apasher does get it on the second try. It is a relatively easy trick. He also does get fast bongo there too. So on the 1.0 version of this game, you can drop a bomb down the hole and stun bongo before the cutscene to start fighting him even opens, and then you just get down there and you smack the ever-living crud out of him before he even gets a chance to get up.
It's not too hard of a trick, but it feels amazing the first time you do it.
Yeah, the only thing that can make it difficult is some people prefer to get down there and they have to crouch stab him instead of maybe using ISG. And crouch stab timing on him is pretty much a solid 150 beats per minute. If you don't have that speed stuck in your head, it's going to be a relatively difficult fight. So right now, Apasher does pull a little bit ahead. If Exodus manages to find something important inside GTG, we might see that things are going to be a little bit more even, but technically right now he's doing a check that's a little out of the way.
If nobody knows the relative tempo for 150 beats per minute, it's about the tempo of Skater Boy, the song. I don't actually know who that song is by.
Oh, or he was a skater boy. Yeah. I shouldn't sing that too much.
Copyrighted. Or We're Not Gonna Take It by Twisted Sister.
Those are both, I think, two good songs that people got stuck in their head.
Maybe it'll get Mbop out of Lucia's head. Exodus opting to go to GTG. I'm getting Vanilla Sung Song over on the Apasher side.
Yeah, so far this seed's just been a bad batch of Neapolitan ice cream, or I guess a good batch for me, because it's pretty much 90% vanilla with the occasional notes of chocolate. I won't complain too much, but it's been interesting so far.
Exodus realizing he doesn't have silvers. Silvers are silvers are in the bottom of the well. That's where they are. I remembered that. C-Stack, we've seen anything from about 2 hours, 15 minutes, I believe, is our record, and anywhere to the first I Am Wrong Warp one was about 4.
Yeah, Apasher showing off another Hess there, although he drops it. Having that S position can be really difficult sometimes. It takes a lot of practice, and even then, you know, a little twitch of the thumb or whatever you're using to hold down S position, and suddenly it just drops for you. It feels bad, man.
Yeah, especially if you're running on, I know ESS position on VC is...
Alright, Apasher with his fire medallion, he gets to check Nocturne's vanilla location, and that gives us Saria's song. So that's a couple, or that's at least one check that he can do as a kid, should he choose to do that.
Let's see, what are the 2 checks that we haven't gotten? We haven't gotten Serenade check and Song of Time, and we know Song of Time is... Wait, have we seen a hint for the song?
We know Song of Time is Prelude. We haven't checked Requiem either.
Oh, true. So... Not necessarily Lieutenant Dan. Spirit could be like Serenade, or a song could be in Spirit, and Requiem could be in Serenade.
So having Song of Time here definitely helps a lot. It lets you not have to save scum to go check the right side of Spirit. In your own seeds, I would definitely recommend to always save scum if you don't have Song of Time here, because if you choose to not check the right side and you just go use all your keys on the left side, you might be missing some big items, which we can see our first big chest here. Hopefully this is something nice, and it's just a bullet bag. But yeah, save scumming will save your life in places like this, because you don't want to have to like come back and check, you know, toilet check later on in the seed because you decided to use all your keys one direction instead of checking the right side. And save scumming is pretty much just saving the game before you go and use something like keys or even bomb chews in some cases. So you just save the game, you go right side. If you don't find anything, then you can just reset the game, reload, and now you still have those 2 keys that you would have used checking right side to go check left side. But I've had some friends playing rando seeds with me who decided to go and check only left side. They miss right side, and something like Iron Boots is in there, and suddenly their seed became that much more difficult because, you know, they can't they have to come back here way later with more items because they missed a check.
Ah, nice trap.
See if Apasher gets a better chance at this fight here. So yeah, just hookshot over the torch, crouch jab into the wall, and that Gerudo guard cannot do anything.
Man, if you ever want to test your anger management skills, I would play just like accessible settings or no aim wrong warp settings if that's your thing. But replace all of the junk items, so all like the rupees and stuff, and bundle of arrows and bomb refills with ice traps. And oh my gosh, you'll test your anger management skills.
Yeah, maybe set it to OHKO too, so every time you open up an ice trap chest, you just die, and you gotta start over again.
Oh man.
Let's give the most pain as possible. Why not?
At ZFG's next randomizer.
Well, he's been torturing himself enough with the broken randomizer so far.
Randomizer is looking pretty promising, but it's definitely got some work to do with freestanding models.
I think the biggest issue is that you can delete your Ocarina at this point in time.
Yeah,
I think that's the issue that most people have been having.
I'm pretty sure the last time I checked, I don't know, it's been a while since I've played but last time I checked, you definitely need the Ocarina to beat the game.
Hey, you need the Ocarina to save the game, let alone beat the game.
I know. Exodus doing block skip here.
Yes, because he hasn't made that trip down into bottom of the well. He hasn't found the silver gauntlets that Apasher has. Oh, he does find the lens of truth though.
Dang, lens of truth isn't the way of the hero hint. Rip.
Yeah, we're not going to get baited by a lens hint, but still a nice item to pick up. And the Kokiri sword. So more things are leading him, I think, to bottom of the well right now. Although not anything 100% useful is there. I think still he's going to go and head through the wasteland. He does not have a flame source to check the middle of the wasteland structure. So we'll see if Apasher checks that and see if it's something important that Exodus is going to be missing. But more and more things are getting like cut off. So I don't think that I think our way of the hero hint is going to lead us, in fact, to our hammer. Exodus doing a nice little ground jump there just to skip talking to the guard. Probably saves maybe 10-15 seconds. Not much.
That is right. Wasteland check was purple rupee.
Alright, I missed that hint. Thanks for pointing that out for me. But yeah, I think our hammer is in fact probably locked in Water Temple is my best guess at this point, because something down there has got to be way of the hero.
Apasher gonna go do his. Oh, I thought he was gonna do it there for a second. Maybe he doesn't have enough rupee. Didn't check myself.
Yeah, I do not think we saw anything major there with Exodus going through, so... But yeah, the only thing that we really need at this point is a way to beat Fire Temple. Once we have that, we're at the end of the seed. We are in go mode. All we need right now is the hammer.
And Apasher doesn't have iron boots.
That is true. So if the hammer is in fact locked behind iron boots, like we might be thinking it is, then this seed can get really interesting and painful really fast.
Where were iron boots again?
They were only in the grotto next to Hyrule Castle, but how long
oh, that's right, Boulder of Destiny.
Yeah, we'll see how long it takes Apasher to go back and check and see, but we still have a lot more locations to check before that becomes a necessary thing. But the more checks we see, the more and more we get pointed in that direction.
Yeah, reading the logic is something that just takes so much practice at doing to get effective and good at. It really is. X is going to skip the block.
Yeah, so this is another one of those super slides. So the first bomb generates an explosion. The second bomb is pretty much something for Link to grab. And it sends Link backwards as long as he's holding his shield up. He's going to actually clip into Child Side Spirit first. So he's going to go check over here without having to come back as a...
X is kind of reading the boomerang stuff. Boomerang and slingshot as maybe hints towards Child Side Spirit.
And he's found his last slingshot ammo upgrade, so that'll be nice if he ever decides to go back to being a kid, which we know he has to, because our one of our magic upgrades that we know for sure is magic is as a child. Apasher down to his last 3 arrows on his second round of archery, so he's just got to get 3 of these pots here to be able to go get his 1,500 points, but he didn't want to just try and spam him back at the target.
Apasher, the NA sniper.
Yeah, he loses a little bit of time, because obviously the fastest way to go through there is to use all of your arrows on the first run, but it's better to, you know, do one pass instead of having to come back and do it again. So Exodus is going to do the same trick, but go in the opposite direction. So the super slides are always interesting, because when you get into the right angle, it basically just lets you clip out of bounds.
Yeah, well, what is collision? Collision isn't in this game.
Developers never expected you to be able to go that fast.
Yeah, this is basically like a DK64 where you can just walk through walls. I think was it DK64 that you can just like walk through random walls?
I think I've seen that where they kind of like do a little, I don't know, jump and something, then suddenly they clipped through and they're floating and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, there's one that people always make fun of because it's just horribly made, and you can just like just casual playthrough. Like, we just didn't expect you to brief up against this wall, and it has 0 collision. Weird games. It's
also like most Valve games, I think. Like, you can just like stand on top of something and like you can lift up a bucket or something, and you can stand on a bucket while you're lifting it, and it lifts you in, like, indefinitely. It has all sorts of things. Games are just broken.
I mean, that's just basically Breath of the Wild. With its launch glitches.
Somewhere out there, some game developer is rolling over in his poor grave.
Exodus gets the boss key for Spirit Temple. Can now clear it.
Yeah, definitely not a necessary pickup. I think both of these runners can very easily skip the boss key, but picking that up is very nice. And we get Minuet too, so that's, I guess, a way to get back over into Lost Woods as a kid.
Which means that, yeah, Spirit is...
Exodus looking like he's setting up to do Spirit Hover here. This is a trick that's used in normal No I Am Wrong Warp runs as well as MST to basically skip over half of this dungeon. And he's got Bomb Chew, so we can just Bomb Chew ride all the way up there, which is so nice, because having to use bombs to do this trick is so difficult. So basically, he starts a hover there with the Gwei. Gwei damage kind of works the same way as a bomb does, so he's shielding damage while he's in ISG, and he gets kind of stuck in the air like that. He equips his hover boots, because hover boots are pretty much required for these backflip hovers, and he just kind of pulls a chew, drops it, and backflips on pretty much the same frame, and he gets these, like, he gets vertical height that way. He also uses a bomb chew to unlock his camera, because once you start a hover, your camera gets pretty much locked in one direction, but we need to turn around 180 degrees so that we can backflip onto the seam, as well as we need to get a little bit of direction, because these hovers will also send us a little bit backwards on like the directional axis. Oh, but he gets jebaited because the what's supposed to be a big chest up there is in fact not a big chest. So he has no way of just hookshotting up to that chest right now.
Looks like he's gonna hover some more, or try to.
Yeah, so he realizes he needs to take off his hover boots before he tries to start this hover. Try and get a little bit more height because he can't. No, he's just gonna reset, I guess.
Oh man, I don't know what you're talking about, Aster. I love the chest size matches contents for.
Yeah, I think it definitely messes with runners' heads because there's a couple cases where, like, I know you can't do the normal boat skip with a small chest being in the hover boots room, so it definitely messes around with runners' strats not having the normal sprite models in the places they're supposed to be.
I guess I could see that, but most of the randomizers I play end up being accessible anyway, so.
Yeah, I think in accessible it would definitely help to just save a little bit of extra time, but there are a couple places, I think, like the left side or the Goron City Maze, if there's a big chest on the left-hand side, I guess, you can backflip on top of it and then get over to where you need the hammer to get to. So there's just a couple cases where it breaks the game a little bit. But yeah, it definitely opens up for some very interesting strats that you pretty much have to improvise for on the run, because you can never expect a big chest to be in a place or a small chest to be in another place. So Exodus looks like he's going to make the play now into Shadow Temple that Apasher did not too long ago. So once that's going to be complete, both of these runners are going to be... No, he's going to go check some of the graves. Okay. Yeah, not debate me here. You're going to make me look bad in front of everybody. So I know there's a really interesting strat video for this the Silver Rupee room in GTG without the hookshot. That involves, I think, the last Silver Rupee you get, which is the hookshot one. You just get pulled up by the Wall Master. But then there's also like some setup to get past all the flames with a backwalk. But it's a really interesting video. I think I tried to practice it one day, and it wasn't coming for me, that's for sure. But another one of those sequence breaky tricks that you could learn that, you know, occasionally it's a relevant thing. Once Exodus has Shadow Temple done, both of our runners then still need to complete Spirit Temple and Fire Temple, and then we'll be finished. Although Exodus still does need that magic. Wherever that's hiding for him, he doesn't know that it still is a child. And with glitches, you don't want to go back as a child. I think that we've seen that so often that runners are so stuck as an adult that they won't go back to be a child. With Silver Scale, that lets him check the one magic that we saw at Rudo's bottle. So maybe that'll be his hint to go over there. Who knows? Apasher finding that one lens there in our GTG, so logically speaking, it's not that useful, but maybe we have something hiding for us in the market.
Yeah, basically, Esther. Just clearing out checks, looking for hammer.
Yeah, hammer can be the one painful thing in these glitched randos, because it's an item that there's really no way of getting around it. You know, like you can skip bow for most of the seed. You can skip something like hookshot for a lot of the seed. You can skip iron boots. We even saw in the race with Glitchy and Dave, but boy. Hammer's just something you can't skip. As long as Fire Temple is on the board, you need hammer. Same thing with Twin Rova. If you have to beat Twin Rova, there's no substitute for the Mirror Shield. There's no glitch you can do. And while there is a way to get hammer on B that's glitchy, that's not allowed in this rule set. So still have to find the vanilla hammer.
Or Mirror Shield on B.
Wouldn't that be interesting?
Yeah, so just the same way that you can't beat King Dodongo with Big Oron Sword in just one hit. Makes me sad.
Alright, looks like Exodus is going to... Well, he's going to get into Zora's domain. It looks like he's probably going to go check Ice Cavern. I don't know if he's seen the hint that Zora's fountain is barren, but... Oh, he's going to use the claims check to unfreeze King Zora here. So a cool little trick that you can do as you're climbing up the stairs, you hit the loading zone for King Zora to load in, and you can pull out an item or you can read a sign or something like that. And once you leave the area and come back, the red ice just unloads for some reason. It's a really interesting glitch, at least. And right now he's trying to get basically an acute angle clip. So a lot of like the angles that are slightly less than 90 degrees in this game, you can just clip right through with a jump slash for whatever reason.
You know, collision doesn't exist in the game.
Yeah, so that lets him skip having to move King Zora around. This is probably the biggest logical sequence break we've seen so far. I think we see either money or a fake light arrow all the way over there. So he says nope to that. He's going to go straight over to Ice Cavern.
Yeah, light arrows. Oh, trolled.
And maybe he's banking on that Water Temple is holding maybe like Rudo's letter, and that's going to lead him over to here. I mean, that's also a possible play.
That is something we haven't found yet, and the seed is Rudo's letter.
Yeah, Ice Cavern and the Zora's Fountain area has quite a few checks, although all the Zora's Fountain checks are out of the way, but we still have a few things over here, as well as I think he'll probably find Requiem. at this check over here. And so that'll just give him a fast way to get back. And that might be the biggest reason why he's wanting to do this. It's just because there are some items and he'll get a fast warp back to Spirit Temple.
Something that neither of our runners have really gone for are any Great Fairy Fountains. We haven't really seen any of those.
Yeah, you are 100% right. I don't think they haven't checked any of those. Besides, I think the Great Fairy that's in Desert Colossus, I think we did see Exodus check. I believe the Great Fairy over here counts under the Zora's Fountain checks, so that'll still be barren, but we still have 3 other ones. Apasher gets the halfway Hess through the desert, gets all the way through the rest of the way. The halfway Hess is not too hard because it's only pretty much one direction change. And then you can just navigate through the rest of the desert pretty easily after you get to that wasteland structure.
Exodus is trying to use a bomb to clip into the red ice here and open this chest. Pausing to try and buffer to the right frame. There it is. One more. Oh, getting his silver gauntlet. It means we have identified all 3 gauntlets. Or strength upgrades.
So that, the runners might not know it, but now Ganon's Castle Fairy is a logical check at this point, and that could be something important as well. And there is a way to just kind of recoil slash on in there too, so I wouldn't be surprised to see one of these runners try and check that relatively soon too. I halfway want to see Apasher fall for the same trap that Exodus did, but no, he's going to go straight back to the temple and go do it the normal way, probably.
I didn't think it was a really good move by Exodus to leave Desert Colossus and go do some other checks. I think you really should have completed Spirit.
Yeah, maybe he was worried that you just was kind of out of logic at that point and wanted to go check some other things really quick. And he'll get a fast way to get back there, but I do agree that leaving early was a little bit of a misplay. Oh, and you are right there, Asder. We are out of logic here in Ice Cavern, but maybe the runners will make the assumption that Rudo's letter was someplace that they've just missed at this point. That's sometimes what you have to do when you make these out of logic plays, is that maybe the item that you're missing is just something that you haven't checked yet, even though it's in logic.
Exodus getting a put-away ground jump. Something I haven't seen. Put away a sword at the same time you got a ground jump to interrupt. Ground jump is something that's so easy, and yet there's so many different creative ways to get the trick. It's actually kind of interesting to see everybody's different take on it.
Yeah, I believe it was Fig who put out a video maybe a couple months ago who was calling out people, because a lot of people did ground jumps by, backflipping and then rolling into the bomb, and like sometimes that didn't work for them. But the easiest way to get a ground jump is to kind of quick draw your sword by pressing B and shield, and then pressing I think it's target and A at the same time, and that'll kind of keep you in the same place. Like in icy places, that makes it a lot easier. Or if you have hover boots on, like if you're in Forest Temple and doing the impossible jump.
Oh, it makes me nauseous.
Yeah, so Exodus confirms there's nothing really good here in Ice Cavern besides just his free shortcut back to Spirit Temple. Meanwhile, Apasher's like getting through his progression. He's doing all the checks that he needs to. He's not missing magic, so Apasher is steadily just pulling ahead of Exodus unless Apasher decides to get desperate and looks for Hammer maybe here.
With both hovers, hookshot, and iron boots, Water Temple is fully clearable by both of the runners with their knowledge of tricks of just a simple super slide past the hover boot check to get to.
Yeah, the Apasher does another little ledge clip there to skip through that side. Basically, every time that Link re-grabs a wall, he clips a little bit into the ground for whatever reason, or into the wall, and so he kind of uses that to clip onto the other side, essentially, and he doesn't have to go all the way around. But also, he has Din's Fire at this point, so he could get that chest before having to go all the way around. Whereas Exodus had to kind of go and light the torches before getting to do anything else. Although I'm actually not 100% sure on how he lit the torches in the first place, now that I'm thinking about it. I think he might have skipped that chest.
It is quite possible. I guess he does have Din's Fire equipped and low magic, so maybe I missed it. Exodus is gonna go get Hyrule Castle Great Fairy.
Yeah, now Exodus is going to pick up some of those child checks that Apasher missed, or already picked up already, so this is just kind of going to continue Apasher's lead, I think.
And Apasher using entrance point glitch, something we saw last seed a lot.
Yeah, so basically by crouch stabbing the door and opening the door almost at or as soon as he starts recoiling away from it, the door kind of remains open, and he can kind of reset his spawn point when he comes back into the room by side hopping away from the door really fast. And so when he voids out in the next room, he comes back, and the game decides to basically put him out of bounds, and from there he can just kind of run over and jump slash over to the locked door and get to the rest of Child Spirit.
The reason the game puts him out of bounds is because the game sets Link's entrance point, and it's entrance point glitch at the place where Link is when the door closes. So by delaying the door closing, that whole method, wherever Link is when the door closes is where the game says to respawn him whenever he voids out.
Yeah, people who ran the old route of No I Am Wrong Warp are very familiar with entrance point glitch, because that was probably the bane of every No I Am Wrong Warp's runner's existence back before the new boat skip method was found. I remember trying to learn that for the longest time before somebody said, "Oh no, wait, there's a lot easier of a way that was found like not too long ago." I was like, "Well, crud."
Do I need to turn my mic up just a little bit?
It does sound like you're a little far away from it.
How's this?
Yeah, it's good.
Alright. Yeah, no, actually, real serious, I'm just screaming at my mic from across the room. It's a pretty effective technique.
Yeah, I think something that any any runner of Randomizer will tell you is that if you have a way to get to progression in a seed, you always want to prioritize that over anything else at this moment. You don't want to spend the time doing all of these extra checks at the moment, because that could take you on some kind of wild goose chase, when meanwhile you have the means to complete a dungeon, but you're just not doing it right now. And that dungeon could have everything.
Yeah, that's definitely something that Exodus is doing right now. He's kind of putting off dungeons that he can do. He can do Water and Spirit Temple right now, both of which, you know, have a high probability of.
I mean, heck, he could do Shadow right now. We saw Apasher do it not too long ago. There's so many things that he has open to him that he needs to do to beat this seed anyway. So he is just kind of squandering his time right now, and unless like he manages to find the hammer and it's in some far off wonderland, this is going to put him at a reasonable disadvantage.
Exodus looks like go check well.
Yeah, we know there are some nice items in bottom of the well. We know he's going to find Din's Fire, a strength upgrade, and possibly double defense, depending on how far he goes in. And he does have the benefit right now of having ZL while going down here, so maybe there's a couple checks that he can hit up that Apasher happened to miss when he came down here, because he did not have ZL.
Good old Navi sound. Exodus getting double defense.
Yeah, the only reason I can think for Exodus not doing Shadow Temple right now is he thinks that logically he can't do it because he doesn't have Din's Fire, and maybe that was the reason that Apasher decided to do it at the point that he did. But still, I think that with his glitch knowledge, there's no reason he shouldn't just go clear that right now.
Worst case scenario, he has to re-enter it and clear all the checks anyway. But best case scenario, he doesn't have to re-enter Shadow because he finds Hammer clearing out another temple, looking for boss key in Water.
Yeah, and we still even saw that Apasher skipped half of the temple by doing Cage Clip. So there's still a couple checks in Shadow for Apasher, should he decide to go double dip there. I'm still banking on Hammer being in Water Temple at this point, but it's this seed could be painful for a while.
Definitely. Especially with there doesn't look like there's been any hints of where the hammer is so far, besides just logical hints.
Yeah, but some of our biggest defenders for bait items are already out of the way. The last possible item that could be over there is Rudo's Letter. And at this point, now that we've cleared out Ice Cavern, the only reason why Rudo's Letter would be that is if something is hiding in Jabu Jabu's belly.
This could be one of those trolley seeds where something Way of the Hero is in a stone.
Yeah, either A, Water Temple is leading us on to Jabu Jabu, or B, it's just in Water Temple. It's gonna be a big question mark until we hit there. We're looking for Schrodinger's hammer. It's both in Water Temple and not locked behind Iron Boots at the same time.
Amen to that. That's not a mirror shield. Luckily, Exodus knows that that's not a mirror shield.
Yeah, Exodus picking up his first set of new duds for this seed. Hasn't done chickens yet, so doesn't have his lucky little fire tunic. Maybe he'll go do that after completing this dungeon.
Apasher also still might be looking for Iron Boot. After all, he has not checked Boulder of Destiny yet.
Yeah, and Apasher should have picked up the hint that Hyrule Field was on the way of the hero, and I don't think that we've necessarily found anything else that could lead you to believe that you found another item that would have been way of the hero in Hyrule Field. But really, Iron Boots being way of the hero and Exodus having them are the only advantage he has on Apasher at this moment. Otherwise, Apasher is really sitting on all the cards he needs to be in the lead on this seed. Exodus does pick up his fire arrows down there. I don't think he's picked up Jin's fire quite yet, but both fire sources sitting down here at the bottom of the well. You do occasionally have those seeds where you question, what's the meaning of life, and if you have to open up Shadow Temple with fire arrows. Glitch, you'll never really have to do that as long as you have hook shot. But there have been times where I've gotten the hint that Din's Fire is someplace that's completely painful to get to, and I'm just like, well, I'll go learn that, 2-minute long setup to open up Shadow Temple with fire arrows and go pray that I executed right.
And in a timely manner. Din's Fire is I forget what the cryptic reference to toilet.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I know that one off the top of my head either. Yeah, Apasher coming up on the final leg of his 5th medallion dungeon, so really all he thinks he needs to go is the hammer, and right now he doesn't really have anything, I think, really strong hints besides the way of the hero hint that's leading him in any particular direction.
Exodus getting his gold gauntlets puts Great Fairy Fountain in logic for him.
Yeah, he did have to moderately sequence break to get his other strength upgrade, but at this point, I don't think he cares either way. I suppose the other thing is that Apasher doesn't have Boomerang marked right now. So if it does happen to be something like in Jabu and it's locked behind Boomerang, that could be painful, I suppose, for Apasher. But until we know for sure, like, it's hard to say. This could be either person's game. I'm giving it to Apasher just because he's prioritized his progression early so far.
Looks like Exodus might be picking up his magic.
Yeah, and that was, in fact, an actual magic. And if he's going to go into Zora's domain right now, he's going to pick up his other magic. So he's going to be sitting on double magic now.
Kome Kutake double. Double dynamite. No. Always, this is my, more favorable, phase in the Komei and Kitaki fight.
Yeah, as long as you can one-cycle her, this phase is super nice. The first phase is just the most troll thing ever sometimes.
Man, you can spend 5-6 minutes just on that first phase. Exodus having full magic.
So the play I kind of want to see him here, not because I think it's necessarily a good play, but because I'm morbidly curious, is glitching into Jabu Jabu and checking through there. I think he might do it just because he's child and he doesn't want to backtrack over here. He may just set for Ore's Wind and come back if he doesn't find anything else as adult. But man, I'm super curious right now.
For the sake of getting just another dungeon down and a whole bunch of checks, I think it would be a good play. But however, in terms of logic and, what's, probability of where Way of the Hero items, specifically Hammer, is, I don't think it would be a very good overall play.
Yeah, assuming he doesn't know that Shadow or Spirit has Hammer, which we know that they don't at this point, unless it's behind something that was skipped. But we're thinking that it's in one of these last 2 dungeons that we need to see completed. So, assuming he doesn't know what we know, this is the easier of the 2 plays to make between doing this and Blind Water Temple. Water Temple is just such a painful place because I think it has 4 possible actual checks, without Skulltulas, that is. But he does have Iron Boots, so, Skulltula checks don't become as painful, and he is going to just kind of leave. I think if he had set for Ore's Wind, this would have been a much better play, but I don't blame him for not thinking about it.
I agree, especially since he's gotten both of his magic here. Both of his magic meters.
Yeah, but some people haven't played around enough and don't know the settings change, because it's a very recent change that you can set a permanent for Ore's Wind as a child and an adult. And because normally, and I think in vanilla, if you set for Ore's Wind as a child and go adult, it gets unset.
In fact, I didn't even know that until you told me today when we were starting this race.
Yeah, it's a really nice play to make, especially if Jabu isn't a required dungeon, or if you get early access to it with Ruto's Letter. Just go set for Ore's Wind, because if you have to come back, you're going to save a ton of time by just maybe going into Deku Tree and for Ore's Wind warping, instead of having to, make the long trek all the way through Zora's Domain. Apasher making the choice to double dip now into Forest Temple. Check those last couple of things that he decided to skip through the first time through. Next is going to go check the slingshot target. Since he has that, going to get a piece of heart for his troubles. Not what he wanted to see. I think he's going to go use his owl warp back to the castle. Maybe go check the mini game in Hyrule Market. Apasher now picking up his boomerang, so now he maybe can make the play into Jabu Jabu if he chooses to.
That's something I don't think we've seen yet, is a treasure chest minigame is now unlocked.
Yeah, with this setting string, the only thing Lens of Truth actually logically opens up is the treasure chest minigame. So there's maybe a decent possibility we find some kind of hint there. Maybe a long shot that would point us in the direction. Maybe Ruto's letter. I don't know.
Does Exodus have lens? Because I know it's not on our tracker.
Yeah, they both full clear GTG, so they should
That's
both
right.
have lens. Yeah, now that Exodus has magic, he might have to go and catch up to Apasher. Well, Apasher's got this time right now to kind of just do some searching around, do those checks that he hasn't picked up yet. And as long as he's doing stuff that Exodus hasn't done, he's going to get a solid lead for himself.
Apasher using a ground jump, just a glitch to store a neutral vertical jump on Link, using a ground jump to skip having to push the block.
Yeah, save some decent time in the Forest Temple. In speedruns where you don't really ever pick up strength upgrades, like the actual No I Am Wrong Warp speedrun that we kind of steal the rule set from for this, that's required to do because you have no way of pushing those blocks. You actually do need Goron's Bracelet to push any of the blocks as an adult.
And it actually saves a lot less time in Randomizer, because Randomizer has a fast block push, which, if you've ever used and felt the timing of, it is lovely. Not having to wait millions of years for the blocks to go into play.
Yeah, because some of those blocks you have to push and pull 10, 12 times. I think the block that's in Spirit Temple as a child, you pull backwards like 16 times to get it to where the light is. Yeah, it doesn't look like we found anything interesting at the treasure chest minigame. So back to an adult. Exodus goes.
Maybe now we'll see, try and enter Water Shadow.
Yeah, Exodus has some ground to make up. I think now he logically can go clear Shadow Temple. Maybe he'll choose to full clear it and not skip the first portion of it like Apasher. Shadow Temple is a place loaded up with chests, especially in the first half. If you do that gate clip or the cage clip, you're skipping a solid probably 10 chests, as well as Skulltulas. And unfortunately, Apasher doesn't know he's not going to find the progression he wants in this dungeon, but he is going to come away with, 40 bombs in his bag, so that'll at least, feel kind of nice. Yeah, one thing to note is that, if you go in there and if you see something that you already have as an item, you can know for sure that's an ice trap. Also, if you find something in a place it logically can't be, like if you find Din's Fire deep inside of Shadow Temple, it's probably not actually Din's Fire.
Or if you already have Mirror Shield and find Mirror Shield and a Gold Skulltula in the bottom of the well, probably not.
Yeah, the Randomizer 4.0 loves to bait people. Sometimes you can stay woke and you can, avoid those. Sometimes you check it because, God, you really hope that this is what you need. All right, Alright, so Apasher's still got a few more things, I guess, to check here in Forest Temple before he's completely done with the dungeon. Oh, he's gonna damage boost up to the place where the green Poe is. He's probably he's gonna skip some of the falling puzzle room. It's an interesting choice.
It'll definitely save some backtracking time of going through places he's already gone.
Yeah, I think you can enter back through that door and check a few more things then. Exodus is going to go and get his spirit temple cleared out. I assume he'll hit Shadow. So Apasher's still got a ton of free time, but Exodus did check a lot of extra things, so we'll see what difference does Apasher make to try and use his lead that he doesn't know he has, but he has right now.
Clearing a whole bunch of overworld checks, or just checks in general that have no real value, is only, neutralized if the other racer does the same. So I'm pretty sure that's kind of what would be best for Exodus right now if Apasher does a whole bunch of overworld checks.
Yeah, I think the Ice Cavern was the only play that was kind of really YOLO from Exodus. I don't see Apasher trying to make that play. I think Exodus, in his mind, it made sense just because he knew he would get Requiem, so he'd get a fast way to get back over here. But Apasher doesn't have to do that because he cleared Spirit Temple when he came over here the first time. So we'll have to see if Apasher chooses to make the play. He's probably going to go clear the front side of Shadow Temple too after this if he's thinking about dungeons that he's, still got some checks to do.
A name.
Yeah, kids these days don't know what it's like to play a shooting game without aim assist and have that back on the old N64 controllers, that's for sure.
Yeah, man. Man, if you just got somewhere close near an eye switch or a shooting gallery and it just kind of like flicked a little bit towards it, that would be awesome.
Yeah,
Randomizer 5.0 question mark?
I suppose Z targeting is like the original aim assist, but that only works against, hostile enemies, not stuff like, like the shooting gallery.
Hey, Trez, not Trez, Test Runner, I'm telling you, man. 5.0.
The slippery slope of Randomizer, where you just skip all the mini games. You just walk over there and get the check anyway.
Fourth try minuet.
Yeah, Apasher making a remix that kind of sounds like, I don't know, the beginning of something from Star Wars, like comes over here, doesn't, I guess maybe second guesses himself, heads over to Bolero. Maybe he's, I can't see what he's gonna do from here exactly. I mean, I would say maybe he tries to mega flip into the Crater Fairy, but like he needs Hammer right now, and so Hammer wouldn't be there.
Yeah, that really wouldn't give him anything that he needs.
Or maybe he's just gonna go check the fairy that's outside here anyway.
Yeah, Hammer is the only thing that Apasher needs right now to be in complete go.
Well, he hasn't checked any of the crater checks. He's gonna pick up the claims check. Maybe he doesn't have the hint for that. Not 100% sure. Maybe check the hint that's over in the cracked wall.
Yeah, he's equipping bombs. He's gonna go get the grotto as well as the.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I honestly thought that Apasher had checked these grottos up here already, but still not quite what he's looking for at this time. Gets a nice hearty fish though, in case he's hungry along the way. He's gonna turn in claims check. Not gonna be happy with this decision, but it's probably like a 20-second-ish time waste. Or not even, because, you know, he doesn't have to worry about, you know, turning in eye drops. Eye drops would have been probably about 20 seconds. Just the claims check, like 10. So maybe now Apasher's making the choice to go back into Shadow, quite possibly. Either that or he's just warping over to CAC. Meanwhile, every check that Exodus does is just going to give, or every check that Apasher does from here on, it's just going to give Exodus a little bit more time to get back into that.
Definitely. Robo check, yeah, and randomizer the color palettes for the tunics, and they all change.
Yeah, and it's kind of up to the runners. They get the seed, and then from there they can choose to randomize cosmetics or choose whatever colors they really want. It's really neat how 4.0 has allowed a lot more choice for cosmetics.
Definitely. Like, Exodus hasn't randomized any of his colors. I don't know about sound. But Apasher has definitely randomized a couple sound effects, not music, but also his color.
Yeah, at this point, I think we can say that if Apasher doesn't choose to enter Water Temple or Jabu by the time Exodus finishes Shadow Temple, they're going to be back dead even, if not Exodus a little bit in the lead just because of the extra checks that he's done at this point.
Oh, Exodus would definitely be in the lead. I mean, he has Iron Boots. He has the ability to full clear water. Exodus is getting pretty good Twin Rover luck.
Yeah, only so much you can do to manipulate Twin Rova, but sometimes she can be very nice to you.
Man, he's hit every single hit so far. He's celebrating a little bit. I would too.
Yeah, not the 100% perfect, like, you know, possible RNG for Twin Rova, but not bad by any means. I think any runner would be happy to get that in one of their, you know, PB pace runs.
Oh man, he hit every cycle. You know, the times in between were, but you know, they weren't on polar opposites.
So Apasher picks up Silver Scale and immediately warps over to Sacred Forest Meadow. So this makes me think that he's going to head over to Zora's domain, and now suddenly I'm very, very worried for Apasher's direction in this seed.
You know, he always could be clipping into Jabu. That is something that is allowed in No I'm Wrong.
Yeah, that would be, I think, the most Pog play at this point in the seed is to make that clip as an adult into Jabu Job. Not just because it's an incredibly kind of interesting trick to see, but also just because it's something we haven't seen anything in Jabu Jabu yet. So
something that we've kind of been seeing is that none of the other runners have really been, they don't have any sense of direct routing. They're not going to this place, clearing out all these checks. It's just kind of sporadic a little bit. That's something we tend to see here towards end of race kind of gameplay. It's, well, we're starting to run out of checks. We're one item away from go mode. Well, what can I do? Well, I guess I haven't gotten that grotto. I can go get that grotto on my way to Z, and then just kind of warping all over the place, getting whatever checks pop into their head, and trying to put as many together as possible.
Yeah, I mean, when you're hunting for one item, no check is too out of the way. I mean, you're pretty much just saying, like, okay, I'm in this area, I'm going to hit up everything, and hope that something's there, and if not, I'm going to hit up the next everything, and so on and so forth.
Apasher going to unfreeze Zora using the glitch we explained earlier. Just her recovery here.
Yeah, getting a little bit of fishy love for, giving him an unfreezing, but still not what we want to see right now.
No, looks like he's going to be heading for Ice Cavern, I guess?
Yeah, he's making the same play that Exodus made not too long ago. I'm interested to see to know his reasoning behind this, because I mean, both runners decided to prioritize going to Ice Cavern before, hitting up Jabu.
And Apasher still needs to get Boulder of Destiny to get his Iron Boots. Why he's doing Ice Cavern and stuff like the grotto outside of Sacred Forest Meadow before doing something as, Spear Zero as Boulder of Destiny. I mean, he's had Bomb Shoes since Deku Tree.
Yeah, it might be just one. Sometimes there's those checks that you sit there and you're like, I'm not so stupid as to have forgotten that check early on. And so you just don't do it because you think like, yeah, I'd normally always route that in like right away. Now Apasher does have 100% experience, so Ice Cavern is going to be relatively fast for him because he knows really fast ways to get around in here. He's going to set up a Hess here that's going to let him get through the red ice, or maybe it's just a super slide, but oh no, it's definitely a Hess.
Yeah, kind of going off what you talked about at the very beginning of the seed of, people not going adult early because they tend to forget and overlook. There's so many checks as adult. Overlooks those child checks that may have something.
Yeah, because I know I've had seeds where I've sat there and like my progression was on child digging game. And I just never went back to do that because my brain was like, don't worry, you always do that. It's fine. And then you get all the way into the seed and you're pretty much forfeiting at 5 hours because, you big brained yourself out of anything.
You didn't get to go see your buddy. You didn't go, hey buddy. Hey buddy. I'm waiting till Twitch invents Twitch emotes IRL.
Oh, am I the only person that goes out there and like says Twitch emotes IRL? That's embarrassing.
Oh no, not even close. I'm Monka S to all my friends. They're like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "You don't know what Monka S is? That's Monka S."
And this is why we're commentating a rando race on a Wednesday
thank you. Yeah, I'm not exactly known for my social skills. But yeah, I've set my third tier emote slot to something I only want to use in iMessaging. Because I never get any third tier subscribers, so I might as well use it for something I want to use it for. And Twitch has the iMessage app where you can use your Twitch emotes and iMessage conversations as stickers. And yeah, so I completely abused the system.
Yeah, or link it up with Discord too, and you can spam it on all your favorite Discord servers.
Oh yeah. They're like, that's a real, they're like, that's a good emote. Well, where'd you get that emote? And I'm like, give me $25. And they're like, no. I'm like, no, seriously, that's how you get the emote.
And not just $25, every month, $25.
Yes, every month you want to use that. That is a upcharge. Apasher using his 100% knowledge to faster out the rupees.
Yeah, the only real use of gainers in Ocarina of Time. Majora's Mask has much more interesting gainers, but here pretty much our gainers are run around with the hover boots and backflip because you still have forward momentum.
I believe there also is there's a gainer trick in Water Temple to get down to the medium floor with the bombable wall right after the Gerudo cutscene.
Yeah, there's a kind of a glitchless gainer way to do that, and as well as a hover boots kind of gainer way to do that too. So yeah, Exodus making the choice to full clear Shadow from the very beginning. He's not going to do gate clip. He's just going to go through here pretty much the accessible way, because we now know that no check is too small at this point. And I think these runners are just trying to like fool themselves and say, don't worry, this seed won't hurt you. You don't have to go to Water Temple. But we're pretty confident that this seed is going to hurt them.
This seed is going to hurt them. That's exactly what I was going to say. This is very much going to hurt them.
Yeah, these seeds don't care about your feelings. They don't care about your PBs. They don't care about, oh, well, I get, sub 3 hour seeds all the time. Doesn't matter. Your hammer is someplace you're never going to find it.
The logic, it lives and breathes the essence of you crying yourself to sleep over your hammer being in river.
Exodus shows a cool little trick right there. Basically, those spike traps move so fast coming down that you can literally just backflip through them. For the while, that was kind of banned and accessible, but there was a glitchless setup found to skip the spike traps, and so they decided, because the glitchless setup is way too hard, everybody can just backflip those. Although now, like, we're playing on just glitch, rules anyway, so it doesn't matter either way.
It's really easy. It's just timing, kind of when if it's going down, back.
And Exodus also showing that you can kind of tell where the invisible platform is by pulling out your hook shot. When the red dot kind of gets bigger and closer to you, you know that the platform is right in front of you. That's a way to kind of skip having to get the lens in the first place. Some people just kind of YOLO it, and most of the time you'll be fine, but it's hard to say 100%.
Finding the hookshot targets without lens is actually a lot harder than it looks, and takes some rote memorization to know where those hookshot targets.
And like you mentioned, we do see Apasher glitching into Jabu Jabu as an adult. I wouldn't say this is an incredibly difficult trick, but it's very tedious because every time that you pause, ice, like physics, also pause with you, and they take a frame to come back in. So if you overpause that trick, it actually will fail, because you need the ice physics to kind of move you into a certain point before you can actually like side hop off of there.
Basically, that means if you want to do that trick, you got to get good at it first.
Yeah, you pretty much don't want to pause until the first frame or the frame before Link starts taking damage from the bomb. If you pause anytime sooner, the trick is going to fail because you over buffered it.
Apasher gonna do a complete Rudo skip.
And using Boomerang as an adult involves this trick called Equip Swap. Equip Swap is basically it's a frame perfect trick where you put your reticle over an item that you want to use in your inventory, and then you go over to either the menu or the basically the boots and tunic screen or the map screen. You switch back over to the equipment menu, and on the very first frame, you try and equip. You press like up left and whatever button you want to equip to. And if you do that perfectly, you'll equip the Boomerang instead of, say, like Furore's Wind or Din's Fire. The only thing is, it's a frame-perfect trip, and you're in the pause menu, so you can't pause buffer it. You just have to do it over and over again until you get it right.
Basically, what that means is, if you want to do that trick, you got to get good.
That's just the story of it. It's tricks where you just got to get good, man. And Apasher choosing to use Ocarina items there to keep the switch pulled down. So if you drop an item out of your bottle and you pick it back up, you'll have your bottle in your hand. And so if you backflip or side hop and you push Ocarina and an item you can hold in your hand, like Boomerang or your sword, you'll play that as an Ocarina. And that'll keep a blue switch or any switch pushed down longer than it's meant to.
That's the reason the Ocarina comes up is because it's kind of combining the animation of dump out this bottle with also use the hookshot, and the game gets really confused and defaults to the default animation, which is actually playing the Ocarina. So you backflip, and then all of a sudden you're playing the Ocarina.
Yeah, and if you do the same trick, but instead you just use another bottle, so you pull out the bottle in your hand, and then you do another bottle, you'll basically like drink your fish, which will restore your health. So that's a useful trick to use in some of the glitch categories where you're running out of health, but you don't want to go farm for health. You can just kind of drink your fish, and you'll keep your fish anyway, but you'll drink whatever's in your bottle.
And if nothing's in the bottle, it'll drink the bottle anyway. No, you'll just drink nothing. It's actually kind of fun. And actually, I learned this in doing a randomizer with one of my friends. Actually, it was wrong word, randomizer. Or that was the rule set we had agreed on. Is if you play it with, if you use Lens of Truth instead of the hookshot that's also in a nearby C button, you accidentally RBA over your Lens of Truth and forfeit the seed because you broke the rule set.
Yeah, I know if you do the same thing with nuts, you'll dupe over your nuts. It's the same thing like if you pick up or if you swing your bottle at like a fish, and then while you're in the swinging animation, you equip your bottle over over your nuts. No longer will you have a slot for nuts in your inventory, and you'll have a second bottle. And that's used in MST, and I believe that's still even legal in like this category.
Really? I thought that's right. We've had a discussion on whether or not bottle duping is, and I think it ended up me being wrong.
Yeah, but as soon as you pick up like another set of nuts, then you no longer will you have a second bottle. So you always want to be careful that you take whatever is out of your bottle and put it someplace safe so that you can get your nuts back.
I know, right, Dirty Randy? I hate it when I, wake up one morning and I'm still a little bit tired and I accidentally dupe over my nuts. It's the hot news spam email.
Tricks these doctors don't want you to know. But yeah, so far, Jabu kind of leaving us high and dry, not giving us the items that we want. So Not 100% confirmed yet because we haven't killed Baronade, and I think we still might have one Skulltula in here. But we've almost all but confirmed that there's nothing in here. And that water temple is, in fact, once again, our go mode place to be.
Oh! Exodus finding the Megaton Hammer in Shadow!
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, and that's not even, I can't believe that Apasher actually did skip this side of Shadow too. So whatever's in the bottom of Water Temple, doesn't matter. We found her hammer. Exodus is in go mode. And meanwhile, Apasher looks like he's actually going to go hit up Water Temple. So he's going to make the play that we thought was right a while ago. Or he's going to go check Fire Arrows.
And I've checked the screenshot of whether or not anybody gets the gift sub, and I've determined that none of you said Shadow Temple. Because we didn't think it was going to ever be in Shadow.
Yeah, no, that Way of the Hero hint has absolutely debated us.
This puts Exodus in go mode and is not looking good for Apasher at the moment.
Yeah, because Exodus is finding that, and he's completing his last dungeon, which will tie him up with Apasher. So now he's just got to go do fire. And I don't know if he's picked up the boss key, but he can definitely boss key skip relatively early into Fire Temple too. So yeah, while we thought that Apasher had a pretty sizable lead, just doing those full clears really has paid off for Exodus, and he's found his go mode item.
And as Exodus is in go mode, we will be switching audio over to him. As you might have noticed, the more keen pain. I'm joking.
Yeah, and I would say, logically speaking, a full clear of Shadow Temple it really does make sense, because you have Din's Fire, you have Hover Boots, and you have Nocturne Shadow. You have everything you need to do it logically. And full clear it. The only thing Exodus is missing right now that could be kind of painful is he does not have his Goron tunic. So he's going to be on a little bit of a time crunch throughout this dungeon. If he picks up a fairy, it'll give him a little bit more time. But he's still going to have to worry about that throughout this dungeon.
Or child cookies? No, maybe those weren't too much. Like Ed Sheeran, I'm thinking out loud.
We found love right where we are.
More specifically in the Shadow Temple.
It's exactly what we needed. But yeah, another seed that I think is really just almost a showcase, in that if you go just do your progression and you full clear your progression, most of the time you're going to get through the seed exactly how you need to. I'm trying to think if there was anything major that was elsewhere. We found some stuff in bottom of the well, but we didn't find anything I think that was necessary in GTG. Apasher going to find his iron boots finally, and I think that's going to bait him into making the wrong check right now.
Apasher's gonna go check the grotto in northwest Hyrule Field. It's just a heart piece. Yep. Top-notch commentary, everybody.
Yeah, he's gonna save warp back to Hyrule Castle. From there, I don't know. It's anyone's guess where he goes, but man, Exodus does now have a commanding lead of the seed. I can't see him throwing this away unless something, you know, if he gets like a VC crash or something. I think he's playing on N64, but I'm not 100% sure.
Apasher is playing on. I know for a fact that Apasher is playing on EverDrive. Exodus is playing on, I believe, emulator. Because whenever he resets, it has reset in yellow letters in the bottom left. Unless that's a weird VC PAL thing.
Yeah, Exodus, he's got 2 keys right now, so he can get most of the way in the dungeon. I would think the best play would get to the fire maze room, and then just ledge clip into the boss room if he knows that. If he can do that, like that's like the guaranteed play instead of trying to hunt around for the boss key at this point. I guess if he gets another small key, that'll guarantee him the way through that, but that would be the play that I would make because that's the 100% play right now.
Agreed. Not that it'll really matter unless Apasher has a sudden realization that his hammer is in shadow.
Yeah, I was thinking that Apasher would make the play to go full clear shadow after he decided to full clear forest, but he went and did some other checks instead, and now it looks like he's going back to being a child.
You know, if there's one thing that Randomizer has surprised me by, is the amount of people that have EverDrive. I just didn't realize they were that popular.
Yeah, a lot of people got EverDrive, like, who are really fast runners, because it's the only way to use the practice ROM on, like, N64.
Yeah.
And boy, if you've never used the practice ROM out there, the practice ROM is your heaven. It is 10 times better than using an emulator with save states. It is just the top. Bee's knees.
Oh man, if you want to see some of the cool things the practice ROM can do, go watch the interview on the last. It was Dave Patton Glitchy, right?
Yeah, Glitchy was just messing around.
And Glitchy spawned long cows, giant Zelda, and amazingly huge boulders. It was pretty cool, and the long cow wasn't even as long as it was supposed to be. He was complaining. It was awesome. Basically, what the practice ROM does is it allows you to both edit the game's memories, view values, positions, angles, and stuff for getting, as well as let's see what else. Oh, it allows you to go into beta areas to load up about any cutscene in the game, any area in the game, just for like fast warping, so you're not having to make 100% seed on your VC, where you can go anywhere relatively fast. Made by a brilliant person named Glink.
Yeah. Exodus does find the boss key in that room. He uses a clip to kind of just clip into the Goron cage because he sees that the boss key chest is there. So now he is officially pretty much done with the dungeon. He just needs to hover on over the boss door, and he needs to beat Volvagia in that short timer. As long as he doesn't get troll hold, he should be all right on the timer, but it could still be kind of tight because he only has 6 bombs.
Apasher completed treasure minigame and got the ice trap at the end that looked like magic. Sadly, he doesn't want to work his way back out, so right now he did a trick called Put Away OI, which is just Ocarina items, but instead of on a backflip or something, it's on the action of you putting away your bottle to go ahead and exit.
Yeah, that's a 1.0 exclusive trick, so only reason he can do that is because he's playing on the 1.0 version of the game right now.
Patched.
But that glitch also helps you if you don't have Lens of Truth. You can do that treasure chest minigame by playing Sun Song in there. It'll actually send you back to the beginning, but it'll have all the doors still unlocked, and then you can buy another small key from the vendor, and you can go back through it and try again and hope that you get luckier this time.
It's awesome. Exodus using a glitch where called damaging Volvagia's second hitbox. I know the name is amazing, but basically the Volvagia from the cutscenes is always loaded slightly underneath one of the holes closest to the boss door, and so by putting a bomb in there, you can actually damage Volvagia no matter what he's doing, and kind of speed up the boss fight that way.
Yeah, if you watch an MST run of OOT and you watch them get to Volvagia, they actually do weird shot underneath the stage and they damage him down with arrows before starting the fight, because you can see Volvagia's head is like loaded underneath the stage before the fight's even there, and you can actually shoot him with arrows before actually going onto the platform. But it's a really cool glitch. You can get him all the way down so that once he spawns, you just hit him with a hammer once and then slash him with a sword, and he's already dead because you've hit him with 9 arrows.
My favorite temple in Ocarina of Time would probably have to be Dodongo's Cavern, and my least favorite... temple. I mean, dungeon would be... Oh, I'm already answering dungeon, so... Dodongo's Cavern, and my favorite would probably... Or my favorite's Dodongo Cavern, my least favorite's probably Jabu. I hate Jabu with burning passion. For some reason.
I want to say I really liked Fire Temple growing up. Probably my least favorite may have been... maybe Shadow, just because Shadow was annoying to get through casually.
Shadow's definitely really frustrating, but, you know, I think part of the reason why is I've never really been a fan of... Like, I've never casually done Jabu, and I don't know the dungeon well enough, and I know Dodongo's Cavern really well. But probably, if I had to complete a dungeon, like if something was Way of the Hero 2, or needed, like a medallion and an all medallions run, and what I would be like most angry about or disappointed to see would probably be Fire. Because there's just so many checks and it's so confusing. Maybe second to that would be Shadow. Happiest would be DC, Deku, and I guess Forest is pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I think
Apasher's gonna get 20 gold skulls and nothing.
Forest really, I think, the only reason I didn't like Forest was because it's the first dungeon you do when you go adult, and it like sets the tone for the rest of the adult dungeons. Because like all the ones as a kid are like pretty, I don't know, easy in a way,
yeah.
And the theme is a lot, well, not a lot lighter, but significantly lighter. And once you start like your first like, you know, adult dungeon, you're just like, oh, whoa, this is so much darker.
What's your favorite boss fight? Stemming off of what Don and Nintendo Freak said.
Uh, I also like going along with it. Like I liked Fire Temple. I do like the Volvagia boss fight. I think like just like because it's whack-a-mole, it just seemed so funny to me growing.
Yeah, I think I have to agree with that.
I remember doing Goma as a kid and not knowing that C-Up was a thing. And so I just never knew how to start. I went into her boss fight room and I was just like, what am I doing? I don't know how to fight Goma right now. like, what's supposed to happen right now?
I don't get it. But yeah, probably my favorite would have to be Volvagia. My least favorite, probably Twinrova. Just because of how trolly it gets.
Yeah, Twinrova was super difficult casually.
Exodus forgetting that he needs Ganon Tower's boss key, kind of hoping him, or maybe he knew. He was just kind of hoping it'd be vanilla. Gonna go into light trial, highest probability. I'll be smart.
Oh yeah, RoboChuck. Infinite Sword Glitch is basically you start a crouch stab and you interrupt it with a text box, usually with Navi. You can also interrupt it by picking up a bomb, but basically it keeps your sword swinging, so it kind of adds like a lightsaber effect to your sword. And there's a lot of interesting properties to it. But the one that's usually used for, like, as a basic thing is for damage, because your sword will hit an enemy on the first frame it can be damaged every time.
Yeah, Don. They schedule me a lot, and by they I mean I schedule me because this is fun.
Oh, next we do have to search for the boss key through here. Now, Exodus does have everything he needs pretty much to full clear Ganon's castle, so there's not anything that we're gonna have to worry about coming back here for. But we do have to find the boss key somewhere in here, whether it's in a nice trial or it's at like the end of Shadow Trial. Good question.
Apasher coming back in and full clearing bottom of the well, kind of interesting. Interesting choice. Now that he has ZL, I guess. They do slightly after they've taken damage, but not for very long. Usually ISG kills most enemies pretty quickly, especially since ISG is done with a crouch stab. You can take advantage of power crouch stabbing, which is your crouch stab does the damage of the last attack you did with your sword, or with, I guess it also includes hammer. And so because of this, if you do a jump slash and then you get ISG using just a crouch stab, it'll actually do, infinitely swinging, but with technically the damage of a jump slash, and that kills most enemies really, really quickly. Megaton Hammer was in Deep Shadow.
Yeah, most enemies are pretty much dismantled by ISG. There are a few enemies that aren't traditionally ISG'd. Stalfos are one that's kind of personal preference. Iron Knuckles are pretty much never ISG'd because crouch stabbing them is safer and almost faster, pretty much.
Yeah. They'll try and knock you back, and then you're running around, and then it's hard to run around.
Twinrova is one who doesn't need to be ISG'd. Bongo Bongo is a lot easier with ISG, for sure. Same thing with Ganondorf coming up. If you can ISG him, the fight's really easy, but the first, you basically have to get ISG away from Ganondorf, because the first frame that you get when you crouch stab him has immense lag. It is just an awful amount of lag, and it's so hard to time your target and Navi.
Yeah, I need to get the number of Ganon's piano teacher.
I mean, it takes a couple, probably, I don't know, like a week for Link to get over here. I bet, if you got in here right away, I bet Ganon sounds... Actually, it takes, 7 years for him to get over here. He starts practicing right away. But yeah, with ISG, Ganon can be stun locked super easy. Without ISG, you pretty much have to crouch stab him. There's an audio cue or a visual cue for when you have to crouch stab him. But yeah, it's super tight timing, and it's something that you have to practice a lot. Also, if you have Biggoron Sword, like, everything's super easy, because Biggoron Sword does tons of damage.
So here we should see a stun lock of Ganon. Yeah, right as his back kind of comes up at the, like a little couple frames before his back fully rises again. If you crouch stab him again, you can basically just stun lock him.
Yeah, so he just barely misses the stun lock on it. When you get into the Ganon fight, or Ganondorf fight, you can pretty much jump over, and you can either slash or quick spin. Generally, the slash doesn't give him a chance to swing the ball back at you, while quick spin does. But either way, you can get him to so he doesn't play tennis with you at all. And then, yeah, you just try and crouch stab him. Basically, when his cry of pain starts to end, or, well, yeah, when his shoulder starts to rise up. So yeah, and one more nice thing about power crouch stabs going into this fight, he does a quick jump slash, so that's going to store Master Sword damage onto Link. And now he's going to probably pull out the hammer, and he's just going to crouch stab Ganon with the hammer. And that hammer is going to be doing Master Sword damage, so he's only going to crouch stab him 3 times on the tail.
Alternatively, if you use the glitch we mentioned earlier called Hess, if you Hess into the cutscene, it actually for some reason doesn't take away your Master Sword, and I don't know the reason behind that. Do you?
It'll only work with, I think, just a super slide. You can't just Hess into it. And I think because a super slide, like, it keeps your shield up, and so like Link just holds his shield up during the entire cutscene for this. And I think, like, Ganon tries to hit his sword away, but he hits his shield. Because, I don't know, Nintendo programmed this game weird.
Yeah. Apparently being the second fully three-dimensional game has its downsides.
Yeah, Exodus does GG with a time of 3:17:51, so he's going to be finishing up here really soon, landing the final hit on Ganon. GG to him. And Apasher is just going to forfeit it. So yeah, we're done here. GG to Exodus. Very well played.
Okay, let's see if we can get him in for an interview. There's Apasher. Hello. How's it going?
Good. Where was Hammer?
Hammer was in Deep Shadow.
I knew it. I knew it.
Yeah, we were watching and we saw you full clear forest like later on, and we were like, okay, he's gonna go full clear shadow now. And you went and did some other stuff. You're like, oh no.
I was very, very stubborn to go to Deep Shadow Temple until I ran out of options, because it's such a huge commitment. I honestly should have learned my lesson, because the main reason why I go moded Shadow Temple basically was because I thought my opponent with the hero hint was pointing towards GTG or anything, or Gerudo Fortress, like archery or whatever. But it turns out it was ZL.
Yeah, we were banking on there was a Hyrule. Oh wait, no, okay.
That was Weird Egg.
Yeah, I was looking at something earlier. I thought I confused a Hyrule Castle with Hyrule Field, Way of the Hero, and so the entire time I was like, Hyrule Fields, Way of the Hero, it's Iron Boots, Hammer's in Water Temple, and I just misread things. I lied the entire time.
I was seriously hoping that Hammer wasn't in a water temple behind water skulls.
Yeah, we were kind of screaming at you to check Boulder of Destiny there for the last little.
Yeah, but no, it ended up being that yeah, both you and Exodus made the play to go into Ice Cavern. He didn't do Jabu after that. You glitched into Jabu as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
So like a lot of the things you guys were doing, and he just full cleared Forest and Shadow. Like he didn't bother, skipping anything.
Did he full clear Shadow on his first trip, or did he go back?
Yeah, I did it on my first trip. Hey.
Okay. So I'm kicking tires on that because I just like go mode at Shadow Temple.
You
That
know,
was
for
my biggest struggle.
For a while,
Okay.
you were at 5 medallions, and you were just looking for the hammer. And Exodus, he went over to Spirit, left, did Ice Cavern, and then came back later. Once I think he did Bottom of the Well.
Yeah, I full cleared every dungeon except for fire, water, and Javu, I think. I didn't do water or Javu at all, but I did like half to get the boss key. Because I don't know that hover boss key skip thing.
Right.
I need to learn that though.
If it wasn't for the opponent song with the hero hint debating me, I would have full cleared Shadow Temple like 9 times out of 10. But
Yeah.
I was like, oh, Gerudo Fortress might be something. Let's rush my dungeons and then go straight to Gerudo. And it turns out it was for Zelda's Lullaby, because that's the only way you could get to adult Sacred Forest Meadow in logic was by going to Spirit early.
Yeah, I went GTG early as well because of that way the hero hints.
Yeah.
So one thing that we saw both of you do was like you did a lot of like the child checks early. I know like in accessible, a lot of people like to go adult really early on. Do you guys think that making like doing a lot of the child checks early on is better in this glitched rule set?
Absolutely, because I think it's really easy. Because you could go to adult early, and if you just got lucky, and you could commit really hard to very hard sequence breaks, but when it turns out that most of the time all the stuff you want is in child anyway, so I feel like it's just better to have a longer child section and then go adult and then attack your progression.
Yeah, I like that too.
So Exodus, you towards kind of mid-late game, you really kind of put off doing like Shadow Temple and Water Temple, which we had a lot of things pointing towards, but ended up not being required. Why did you choose a whole bunch of overworld checks and some other smaller stuff over doing something like Shadow Temple?
I was playing this seed, honestly, almost glitchless. I barely did any glitches the whole race. Like, I skipped a small amount of Forest Temple with the ledge clip, and then what other glitches did I even do? I used ISG somewhere. Yeah, I used ISG on some enemies, but I just played it like a normal accessible seed because that's just what I'm familiar with. And it worked out. Well, it took me forever to find Hammer because I didn't go in Shadow early enough. But yeah, I was playing it for progression items. Like, I didn't want to go in Shadow until I found everything that I needed to enter Shadow. I don't know if that's right for glitched or not. Probably not, but that's just how I was playing it. I was playing it like a normal accessible seed, so don't go in Shadow until you have Dins, Magic, Hover Boots, Hookshot, etc. Because I didn't want to miss like a progression item somewhere that was important. That's why I did that.
That's the smarter / safer way to approach Glitch Randomizer, is to route like accessible, but throw in some time savers here and there. But
yeah,
I mostly just try to experiment and take more risks, because I want to try to push the glitch metagame to be more glitch heavy. But
yeah, this would have gone horribly for me if if Hammer had been an easy check like at the beginning, and I was in go mode at like 1 hour, then I would have, of course, just done my dungeons immediately and skipped everything. But the fact that I still needed Hammer made me just want to check like everything everywhere and be super safe so I don't miss it anywhere. I full cleared everything in Fortress, everything in Colossus, everything in Hylia except for the Sun, almost everything in Cat. Like I just full cleared like every area almost except for Water and Jabu basically. And Fire.
Like, so. For Glitch, it's most of the things. It's mostly why I tend to get burned in Glitch a lot is because I try to sequence break and save time in go mode dungeons, and I end up being burned, and my progression items ends up being where I skipped.
Yeah.
So it just makes me wonder when it's better to play conservative, like super conservative, like accessible, or when to sequence break. It's what I'm still trying to figure out.
Yeah.
And how do you guys feel about like chest sizes matching their contents? Because I know in the middle of the seed, Exodus, you spirit hovered all the way up just to find out that the chest wasn't big, and so you couldn't actually hook shot to it.
Oh my god, that was so frustrating. That was hilarious though. I was not expecting that at all because I hadn't done one where the chest had been small, so I was not expecting that at all. So, but I don't know. I didn't really pay attention that much to the chest content size matter thing or whatever, is because the smaller chests I wanted to check at the beginning anyways for the gold Skullsla tokens and the potential for just like bomb drops and stuff. So I actually opened most of the small chests, which I don't know if that's good or not again for Glitch, but I did it at the beginning because I wanted to get 20 Skulltulas at least and rupees and stuff. But once I got further in the race, I stopped opening them as much. I don't think they really saved me time like at all. Well, they saved me a little bit of time not opening some chests, but yeah, I'm just not very familiar with that because I'm used to accessible, and there are some funny little things that can happen with that, like not being able to boat skip the normal way and not being able to spirit hover. Kind of silly.
I kind of expected not being able to spirit hover. I couldn't think of applications where spirit hover would be useful because I want to clear a good amount of spirit temple anyway. So
yeah, I just went there without any way of lighting those torches as adult, so I couldn't get a small key, so I was forced to spirit hover, and then I couldn't spirit hover because I was key locked. So that was so silly. I had to go get Requiem from Ice. Once that happened, I was like, okay, let's just get Requiem so I don't have to run all the way over there again. So I just rushed to like Ice Cavern because I wanted Requiem.
So that was why you went to Ice Cavern. That's
interesting. I just wanted because of Requiem.
For a completely different reason.
Oh.
I wanted to avoid Shadow.
Yeah, that's what we were figuring, was that you went Ice Cavern because it was like, I think it was the last song that was open to you was Requiem of Spirit, so it'd be the fast way to get back over there.
Yeah. The only other one I had available potentially was Nocturne, which I was nowhere near. So yeah, it was my only option really if I wanted to not walk all the way over there again later, was to do Ice Cavern.
Yeah.
All right. I think the last question, like, I would have for you guys is: do you think that there's any specific like category or category extension or like thing like bingo that you guys maybe do to learn some of these strats that will really help you in this, or is it really just like don't necessarily worry about the strats? Maybe like your basic, strat repertoire helps you, and just do rando.
I pretty much just went with what I learned previously from 100% No I Am Wrong or Bingo from the time I speedran this game, and I just tried to expand my knowledge and learn new stuff that could potentially be useful for Randomizer. But other than that, I focus on routing. 6
or 7 years or whatever, so I know a bunch of glitches and a bunch of different ways of getting. I know like all the minimal ways of getting each item and each thing like that, but I didn't really have to use that in this race because I played it super safe I think as long as you know like the boss key skips, then you can do fine in No I Am Wrong Warp without knowing many glitches, because those are the only ones that really matter, I think, that much, or knowing how to water BK skip, knowing how to forced boss key skip, and so on. Like, and I guess knowing like the Shadow Gate clip or maybe boat skip. Like, there's only, if I say there's less than 10 tricks you actually really want to know to do decently at No I Am Wrong Warp. There's not that many like tricks on the overworld to skip items. Like, I guess there's the hammer rocks in Gruta Valley, but there's very few overworld checks that you can actually skip the requirements for compared to dungeons. So I don't know. I don't think, yeah, I don't know. Maybe some races glitches will be more important, but this one I barely used any.
I think you could just play a seed like you can accessible and still get a faster time than someone who uses heavy glitches, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think glitches are necessarily that good, except for when you're in go mode, because you're just skipping checks that the game assumes you're getting, so you're very likely to skip progression items.
Yeah, so you don't think something tedious like the old shadow boat skip will ever become worth practicing, where you have to like do entrance point glitch, because you can never, like, it doesn't seem like anyone's ever going to get the seed where you can do the modern boat skip.
Yeah, I think that's only useful if you find like all your items really early. If you're in go mode at 1 hour, like if you found hammer and light arrows and magic and bow and boomerang within 1 hour, then yeah, just do shadow as fast as possible. But if you have ZL, then boat skip's only like a couple minutes faster, so it's not a big deal if you don't do boat skip, as long as you know the gate clip. So yeah, that trick is pretty low priority, I think, for people that want to learn this, but it is nice to know. I actually need to practice that, because that will be useful sometimes, but yeah, it's not top priority. I think just certain tricks like water boss key skip and forest boss key skip are the top priority tricks to know for this.
I feel like boat skip is less important now with the chest size matches contents thing.
Oh yeah.
So I would just say that just learning the gate clip is a safer option.
Yeah.
I just think it was so cool that, like, you know, the other night we saw two very different approaches to glitches between like two different racers, and like today I think we didn't see nearly as much glitches, where it was just and it really was a seed where I don't think you could necessarily do glitch progression, because you had two mandatory items in Mirror Shield and Hammer.
Oh yeah.
Would there be any glitches that specifically that you would go practice for your next race?
For me, it would just be the old boat skip, because I'm not gonna bother practicing the new boat skip when it'll only be possible like probably like 20% of the time or whatever the odds are. So I will practice the old boat skip probably a little bit, but I don't expect to use it in the tournament at all. Just have it as a safe option in case that opportunity happens to come up. But other than that, really,
For me, I would say entering Forest Temple without hookshot.
We saw you practicing that just a little bit before your stream.
Yeah, I
Or
just
before the race.
learned it before this race.
Sadly, you didn't get to show off your new skills.
Mm-mm.
Well, I do have one more question, and this is something that we kind of discussed here in chat and on stream. Is what are your favorite and least favorite dungeons in Ocarina?
My favorite dungeon, I would used to say, if you asked me like 2 years ago, I would say Shadow Temple, because it's fun and 100%, but in Randomizer, I'm not a fan of it. So I would say Water Temple or Spirit Temple. My least favorite would be Fire Temple and Jabu.
my least favorite is definitely Jabu. My favorite, I don't know. Probably.
Like, you see this on the pedestal, and you're like, okay, I can do that. That I like. Yay.
I like Forest Temple because it's pretty straightforward, and I think it's pretty likely to have items compared to other dungeons. So yeah, I like Forest Temple, I guess.
Alright. And least favorite bosses versus favorite bosses?
Least favorite's King Dodongo, because easy. Brain dead boss. Favorite boss is Baronade.
Interesting picks.
hmm. My least favorite is probably Ganondorf because I never fight him in Bingo ever, so I really suck at that battle. So I always mess it up. I either get knocked off the pillar into the ground, or I miss the one cycle, or I don't know. I just need to practice that boss because I literally have killed him probably less than 20 times in like the last like 10 years, and I've probably killed all the other bosses like hundreds of times. So that just shows how rarely I do him. I guess my favorite is let's see. I guess Volvage is pretty cool, how you can drop the bombs on the hole to damage him. That's pretty neat.
Volvagia is cool unless you get Troll Hold, then Volvagia
Oh yeah.
sucks.
Then that sucks. Yeah.
All right. Any more questions, Ryan?
No, I think it was a really good race. It came down to pretty much just one check, but it was super like back and forth for the longest time. Really excited to see both of you race again real soon. GG to both of you.
Yeah, GG. I'm glad I was able to hold my own in this race.
It was definitely a really, really good entertaining. Really, really close.
That's good to hear. As long as it's entertaining, that makes me happy.
All right.
So yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you for racing.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. So just to kind of end things off. Let's see. Where's my chat window? So I've been your commentator Squiddy with Ryan, and let's see. What are the commands? Definitely go follow your racers at the link that I posted in chat, as well. Nice, got first try links, as well as the trackers. Tracking is really, it's one of the harder things to do. Go give a follow to everybody there in the chat, and anything else to add?
No, thank you all so much for the opportunity. Thanks for our tracker. I think the commentary got so much better once we didn't have to worry about like tracking for ourselves.
Yeah.
So it's so much love to Bleeding Blue came out of the blue to come help us out.
Definitely came in clutch. We really appreciate it. All right, so yeah. Definitely follow all 6 of Speed Gaming's channels, and turn on notifications for any more Ocarina Time runs or even other Zeldas. And I believe they also do stuff like Metroid Prime, some really other fun games. Yeah, Zelda 1, Super Mario Bros. 3, Portal 2, Mega Man 11, Super Mario Odyssey, all that good stuff. They so definitely go drop Speed Gaming's a follow. And with that, I hope you all have a great night. Thank you.